All right, call order. Call the transit meeting for April 12th order. Roll call. We have everyone here except for John Menz and Gretchen. Approval of minutes for the March 8th.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second. Motion has been made and second. Any discussion on the minutes for the March 8th? If not, all in favor?
All right.
Public comment? Nothing, right? Staff reports on to us.
Right. New TV, we can run the slideshow full screen now.
It's a little bigger.
Right. Agenda for today, ridership, a couple months in now to the daily run productivity. Potential cell PM revision. Financials, electric bus update, and any questions. Ridership. Ridership on doorstop and Red Cedar rose 534 up to 688 in March, up 29%. But if you look at the amount of service days, up 7%. So great to see. Going down to community route ridership from February versus March, up 4%. But if you actually look at service days, you're down 11%. But we also had stout out for that week in March. Stout ridership decreased. Sorry about the misspell there. Decreased from 18,497 to 15,313 in March, down 17%. But with spring break, only down 8% with the warmer weather, which is great to see. Looking at the next slide here, we'll see some great things as well. Ridership. Ridership looking back at previous years. March, Scout AM route, 12,227, the highest ever. Scout PM route, 3,086 from March, highest ever. Community route, 1,494, highest ever. Community Saturday, 79, highest ever. So putting together doorstop and Red Cedar, it's the 4th best March ever, so it's right in the middle. But a lot of these riders are now riding this bus maybe to the grocery store, and then they're riding the other bus back. So still great to see all these numbers for March.
Why is it the numbers getting so much better? Just people get more aware of it?
If you think, especially on the community route, yes, awareness. There's people that have been here a long time and just understanding it, realizing it. Scout route is very dependent on weather. You know, it's been very nice out, so our numbers past few days especially have been pretty light. But looking back at previous years, on some of these routes, awareness and efficiency, and some of the improvements on some of the routes. Even on the Stout route, we are compared to pre-2020, there was a few different 30-minute gaps at 10 to 10:30, 2:30 to 3 that we never used to run loops on the Stout route, and now we do, because when 2020 came, we were concerned about capacity as well as making sure we had enough loops on there, and we didn't take the bus back to transit here to fuel it at 2:30 when it can be fueled in the morning, kind of thing. So little tweaks like that have helped. Okay, daily run productivity. The first time that we talked about this was last month, about getting those trips per hour ratio up. And this is pre our north and south time frame trials, and sitting at around 2.18. This was March. That's right. That was January. This is February. Up almost 0.5%. And then in March, we rose even a few hundreds up from there. But overall, we've seen good improvement just from adding 2 zones on when we pick people up, and they're still getting to their appointments on time. 4 people on the bus at one time instead of 1. So it's easy, especially with us having 2 buses out there 75% of the day compared to previous years. When we didn't have the staff or the number, we had 1. So, so we went through this with the scout group a couple weeks ago, and a lot of the feedback from the scout group was from scout students on comments, concerns, suggestions was the community route ends at 4 o'clock, but they are in class till 4 a lot of the time. So on the scout PM route, we're not dealing with capacity issues and the amount of volume. We're getting 100 to 150 riders a night shift compared to 800 during the day. So during the PM, we were running 4 loops an hour on the scout PM route. Well, we thought about, well, what if it makes 1 loop to the north side of town an hour on the PM route? Then this is what it would kind of look like. So over here on the left is the proposed, and where it matches up very nicely, it's identical to the second half of every hour of the daytime community route. So it's very easy to follow for the students if they know how the daytime community route works. So I just have everything highlighted here on how it jives with the AM community route, 47 after that marketplace, 42 after at Walmart. But looking at from 5 o'clock to 6 o'clock, it still does 2 loops at the beginning of the hour. It drops off at Red Cedar before it goes north to Walmart, so nobody getting on at the library would have to ride all the way to Northtown just to get back to Red Cedar Hall. It links up perfectly with how the end of every hour works for the daytime community route. And then 53 after, 55 after, and top of the hour. So it links up very nicely. And then this would go on identical to this hour, 5 p.m. to 9 p.m. So it would give the student 4 more hours, technically 5, and they could use the community bus to get to Walmart at that 3:37, still get picked up, because this one will be getting on the route perfectly on the next hour. So no beat, skip. So we proposed this to them. There's no other, the only thing that it does is removes 1 loop on campus during each PM hour. When there's a few times towards the end of every hour, close to 5 and close to 6 this semester, where a lot of kids are getting on. Other than that, it's pretty onesie twosie, 5 people getting on the bus. So this would, on paper, look like it worked pretty well, but it's their decision.
So yep. Is this something that you're doing now?
No.
Or you're just thinking about
Yep,
doing?
just thinking about it.
Because I know basically Stout's got a month left.
Yep.
So.
Yep.
Would now maybe be the time to give it a whirl and see what it looks like? So when school starts in September, hey, this was a good thing. Let's kick it off in the fall, or you just wanna wait?
So,
Yeah, I guess I'm just curious about the time frame for it. Do you wanna implement it or don't wanna implement it, or you're still trying to figure that out, you know? Want to make a trial for a month, and see if it's gonna be something that's worth your time and effort and the wear and tear on the bus, you know, whatever.
yeah, I think the ball is in the SFA's court on this.
Okay.
And, but to implement a change, you know, you gotta look in the months ahead. So we're writing up things are actually sped up this year, where we're getting the ridership agreement set up now instead of August. So having the discussion, you know, for the fall would be.
The SSA is an election process.
They are, so this was presented last night to the government. And that's the question. It's doing action. So they're taking it into the schedule that message schedule.
Yep.
It does mean, but it does really solve a lot of, my online feedback. It really does answer a lot of the questions about that. Basically, that I can make a run to Walmart straight after 4. So I think that's pretty otherwise. Do that and also really not disrupt the PM service because the groups are there and the volume.
Trying to do the same with, you know, or taking care of the problems without throwing another bus on the route.
Yep. Right.
Way long ago, there used to be a community PM route, and it didn't have much for ridership at the time, but it was a completely separate bus from the South PM. But this, you know, checks off a few boxes with the same bus being on the road, and might be a good thing, but maybe more to come on this coming months. But it's put together, and it's an easy transition if we want to go that route. A couple other changes while I have this slide up. The Prevea will have its own line right after Community Services, which is now labeled the Dunn County Government Center. This is now labeled City Hall. And Prevea will have their own line because Scout is using Prevea for a lot of its health services. So that'll come into effect soon. It's already on our online bus tracker, the Prevea bus stop there. It's flag stop. Stop if somebody's there. Okay, 2023 financials, nothing. It's been too crazy for expenses this year. The one thing I keep an eye on is our staffing budget for the team. Now that we're over at and we're on the heavy months of our bus schedule. That'll tone way down after May 10th. So even if this was to continue for the remainder of the year, we're still sitting about 3 or 4% to the good. So for 3 months, we should be 25%. So we're still sitting good there. The fuel budget, the fuel's burning around 3,500 to 4 grand a month, and our fuel budget is 25,000. So that is one that hopefully tames itself down. But other than that, everything's sitting great. And on the online, if you want to dig into any specific line items in the packet that I sent out via email on last Wednesday, there's a breakdown of every line item. But there's not much that's hit so far. So things are looking good. We did get hit from that driver over by 6th Street. I thought the insurance agency was gonna pay Badger Refrigeration directly. But as of the email that I got, they didn't pay it, so we might have to take care of that. That would show on our bus repair. It showed $2,500 towards our overall $30,000 budget, 7-8% of that. But that would be offset completely on the revenue side, kind of like that $10,000 refund that we got last year that I had talked about every month, to show that we're doing better than it was. Electric bus update. This was great to finally get a call with all the stakeholders involved. This call was set up by WisDOT for all the Wisconsin agencies involved, as well as Phoenix Bus with their CFO, their lead engineer, and a few others. And so the last thing that we heard about this is that they canceled Romeo Power was bought out. Nikola Motors canceled all their contracts. So Phoenix had to pick another battery supplier. So they picked Octillion Power System as a battery supplier moving forward. They're shooting for June or July for their test vehicle to be built. Testing hopefully complete by fourth quarter of 23. One positive out of that conversation, or one that we're moving forward, but two, that our 125 kilowatt battery packs are now 150 kilowatt battery packs. So now we should have a lot better buffer to get through the day without even coming back to basic charge. Generation 4 system instead of Generation 3. I don't have much more info on that other than they're more efficient, faster charging, better overall electrical system, I guess. And the one thing that we all asked in our meetings previously is how do they heat the bus? How does the AC run? We got that. I asked that question and we got an answer. 3 to 4 kilowatt per hour usage with full heat on for the driver's area, the Ford HVAC system. And it has a separate diesel Webasto heater for the passenger cabin. Yeah. Yep. 2.5 to 3.5 miles of range lost per hour with the AC on. That would be electrical system on it as well. So having that extra or that larger battery should really help with that too. January and March 2024 delivery on that. Now another agency request, and I thought it was a great deal for them to be giving us monthly updates. Now, even if not much news, hearing something instead of nothing until they feel like emailing us. So that's been great. One of the other agencies had a miscommunication with Phoenix, the bus supplier. They thought the buses would be larger than they are, even though they signed the purchase order that said it's going to be 12 plus 2 for passenger capacity. They're backing out of their 2 buses. So both BART Transportation and us just mentioned that it was already in previous conversations about a third, so that we would potentially be in those. And those wouldn't be a further down the line, you know, kind of that second round anymore. It potentially be in that first finance allow. So it was a good conversation. It was an 1.5 hour meeting with everybody. Some good news.
Look forward to riding.
Yeah, too.
Someday.
Hopefully not as a doorstep client.
Yeah.
So how does that change, Austin, for the scout routes in summertime? Is there, I have no idea, but there's still students up in the, upper campus in the housing that they need a bus, or you just completely
Nope,
stop it, or?
just the community route after May 10th through pretty much the first Wednesday of September after Labor. September 6th. Okay, so that community bus, about a third of that route is exactly what the scout route is. So if there's students that want to ride the lower campus, it's there for them too.
And you can keep all the, like drivers busy then? Or does some get transferred?
Nope,
or-
it's always a balancing act, because we go from 5 routes down to 3. And then historically, we don't run the community Saturday bus during the summer, but if I see that the funds are there and that we have the staffing for it, we'll do it. But it's always hard to have enough drivers for the school year and then enough hours during the summer. But many of our drivers are pretty part-time, semi-retired, where they'll take a month off in May. So, and some are getting shifts 4 days a week when they'd be happier with 2 or 3 right now. So when we can give the extra time off, it's good. But yep, it's always a balancing act. Right now, we could definitely use another one, but we're done in 6 weeks here, so not even. Yeah, not even. Wow. So, yeah.
Have you checked out more on the, like the Boyceville and?
Yeah, I talked to Vaughn at the last county board meeting, and we just brainstormed a little bit and thought of how it could be financially feasible and still efficient. And I really don't think it would be too bad if 1 day a week, the doorstop bus, we had a call in just like any other doorstop rider, and it would, on that loop, it could get to Wheeler, it could get to Boyceville and nap on one loop and be back to town in 1 hour. And then they ride the doorstop bus through the day, the community bus, and then we take them back when it's a little calmer around 3:30. That'd be a certain day of the week, but it would, I said it would really help if we could talk to some of these local municipalities and maybe get a small subsidy to help offset that. Because even 3 small towns that just say $1,000 a year a piece would go a long way.
Right.
So, and he was on board with talking to a few of them. So I think it's doable, and I think we could run it efficiently. Not often in the day, day a week that we did it. People would call in. It'd be very hard to get them to meet at one location, because if they're handicapped and elderly,
That makes it very hard, yeah.
it defeats the purpose. So we'd have to be picking them up at their homes.
Yeah.
And run it just like a doorstop bus would. But so
that would make more sense than meeting at a place.
Yes.
See, most of them, if they can't get one place, how are they gonna get to the
Exactly.
next? Right. Makes
so
no sense.
They can drive there, they can drive here.
Right, right.
so that's kind of the beginning stages of thinking about it. I think it's doable. If it was a certain day of the week and they called the day before, they got their name on the list, we figured out the best route.
Yep.
Get them, and then we went to those cities that morning.
Yeah.
And we could test run it out. I think the time to do it would be May and June, maybe.
That's what I was gonna say, I just don't see that, because you said summer is a little slower.
Yep.
Isn't that the time to kind of?
The doorstop bus has really slowed down the past couple weeks. I don't know, with the warm weather. A lot of people that were taking to work are biking right now. So,
Okay, so I'll just still on your radar.
Yep, we'll keep on it and, we'll hopefully be attending the county board meeting and pick his brain a little more next month.
Sounds good.
Any other questions?
That was it of your report, right? Yep. So, serious action none, 8 done. Next meeting, May 10th. 8 o'clock. Same place, same. Transit's adjourned. Oh, meeting order, the highway committee for 412, roll call, everyone present, plus you guess. Approval of minutes for the March 8th.
Move you approve.
Second. Motion is made and seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Public comment.
Well, we had a couple of letters that Andrew.
Yeah. I haven't seen
We
that.
don't have
Yeah,
that
we-
one.
Yeah.
If you actually want to come up to the table, just so I can make sure.
And I'm Bev Grenier, by the way, and I was the author of the other letter that I think you had. So this is from Leanne Ralph to the Dunn County Highway Committee. My name is Leanne Ralph. I serve as Supervisor 2 on the Otter Creek Town Board. In a few days, I will take the oath of office for Town Chair. I'm writing as a resident of Dunn County in the town of Otter Creek. I have a concern about Dunn County opening up all county highways to ATV, UTV traffic. I have a special concern about the county highways in northern Dunn County that are twisty, windy, hilly, with a road surface that's not in particularly great condition. I realize that the reason for my concern is not really within the jurisdiction of Dunn County, the Highway Committee, or the Dunn County Board, but it seems to me that opening all county highways to ATV, UTV traffic is going to make the problems worse that are already experienced on town roads. County Highway N is about 2 miles north of where we live. Only some of our roads in Otter Creek are open to ATV, UTV traffic, and the road where I live on 970th Avenue is not open to ATV, UTV traffic. Even though the road is not open, that does not stop the ATVs from roaring past our place at all hours of the day, particularly on weekends and as late as midnight or early in the morning, and especially during the spring, summer, or fall. Many times, the drivers of the ATVs we see go by are children, operating wide open, with a 90-degree turn in the road coming up downhill if they are going south, and a sharp turn to the right after the hill where we live to turn up another blind S-curve hill to the east, or to turn north on the dirt road. Running up the middle of the road, no helmet. Sometimes when it's kids, there are 2 or 3 children on the ATVs. One time there were, I believe, 4. No adults accompanying them, no adult supervision. Farm equipment and the neighbor's semi-truck sometimes navigate the S-curve hill. The neighbor does like to come home from time to time to see his wife. The wide farm equipment takes up most of the road. I'm always concerned that the ATVs are going to be racing up the middle of the hill to meet a tractor and corn planter, or tractor and haybind, or tractor and baler, or tractor and wagon, or the semi, and nowhere for the ATV to go except spray up a bank into the woods on one side or straight over the bank down into a wood and pasture on the other side. I thought about grabbing my keys and hopping in my little truck and giving pursuit, except by the time I got the keys, the truck started and headed out the driveway. The ATVs are past our place and they're going so fast I have no way of knowing which way they went. I wouldn't drive that fast anyway because the turkeys and deer and other wildlife are just waiting to spring out in front of you in our neck of the woods. I realize this is not a problem Dunn County can solve. The kids I see riding would be in violation of the ordinance, but I would imagine the ordinance would only apply to county highways. The ATVs, UTVs are inherently noisy. The Village of Colfax has an ATV, UTV ordinance that sets the speed limit at 10 miles per hour. They are still noisy, and that's when it's only one, not a whole line of them. Allowing them to go 35 miles per hour or faster if the speed limit is higher in a group will create a lot of noise. People tend to live in rural Dunn County because they cherish peace and quiet. The snowmobiles in the winter are equally as noisy, but they are limited by season and weather conditions. The ATVs, UTVs are year-round. We have one older couple drive by our house in a side-by-side from time to time. They go about 10 miles per hour. They wave as they go by. If we are outside, we wave back. And as a resident, I have no problem with this. I have no problem with ATVs used for agricultural purposes. I sometimes hear the argument that people who live in cities and villages want to be able to drive on our roads with their ATV, UTV, because those of us who live in rural areas drive on their roads to go to grocery shopping or to big box stores. The people who use this argument do not seem very well informed about how roads are funded. Very little road work, except for perhaps a residential street in a city or village that has very little traffic except for local residents, are funded entirely by property tax levy, but instead as are the town roads, the recipients of state transportation aid, especially for main thoroughfares, or perhaps even the recipients of some federal dollars. If you have suggestions about what to do concerning the children operating ATVs with no helmets or adult supervision, I would appreciate it. If you have any suggestions on how to make it clear that not all roads in all townships are open to ATV, UTV traffic other than signs, regardless of what the county has approved, I would appreciate it. I know we cannot keep all people safe at all times. I know that public roads are open to the public, but I also know that property owners who buy property in rural areas and pay their taxes and wish to enjoy the peace and quiet of their own homes are entitled to that as well. Leanne Ralph, and she lives on 970th Avenue in Colfax. And I can leave this in case you need it for your minute.
Sure.
And then the one that I had submitted, I believe there were a few additional people that signed their names to it. My husband, Bob, and myself were on it. Jeff and Lori Dana, Brady and Bethany Schindler, with both addresses on W and on 1180. Gary and Denise Axner, Jim and Kathy Irwin, Dan Getz, Steve Getz, Angel Getz, they're on our street, and Scott and Sheila Reamer. They are on 670th Street, which they live kind of close to Leanne.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, if you want to read the letter or you or.
It doesn't matter. I can go ahead. Do you have a preference?
You do a good job of reading it.
We'll go with you. You don't want to listen to him anymore.
All right. We were recently informed at a local Wisconsin Towns Association meeting of an upcoming change in the Dunn County ATV UTV routes to include the majority of county roads. This was shared to the group by Dustin Binder, Dunn County Highway Commissioner. We'd like to voice our concerns with opening up additional county roads to ATV UTV use. And I shortened that to just use ATV to encompass both. Some of the undersigned live on town roads directly adjacent to County Road S that are not open to ATV use, and some of the undersigned live on Dunn County roads, including S, W, and others. Even though County Road S is not open to ATV use, we do see a number of ATVs travel on S and other county roads and gravel town roads we live on. We understand and have no concerns with neighbors using ATVs on the roads to get to their respective tracts of land to check crops, livestock, fences, etc., as referenced in List Stats 23.33. These riders typically have a slow-moving vehicle time, but we do have concerns if the roads are formally open to ATV traffic. We truly enjoy the peace, tranquility, and safety of living in our township. This includes the freedom to walk and bicycle county and township roads without the noise and disruption of ATV groups and individual riders. Many of these riders travel at a high rate of speed and enjoy traveling in larger group rides. When walking, we've been startled by the ATVs speeding by, and we run to the ditch to avoid the dust and rocks in their wake. Some of those who go off the approved routes and travel onto non-ATV township roads enjoy fishtailing and doing donuts on gravel roads. We were informed by the ATV club to get the license number of offenders and contact the sheriff. Obtaining license numbers is nearly impossible. There are exceptions to this where ATV riders travel at 35 miles per hour or less and don't ride recklessly or tear up gravel roads. We are respectfully requesting that consideration be given to not opening up additional county roads to ATV traffic, specifically County Road S in the town of Otter Creek and the currently closed portions of County Road W. We believe these roads have too much regular vehicle traffic to safely allow ATV traffic, and opening the roads will lead to additional ATV traffic on town roads that are closed to ATVs, disrupting the peace, tranquility, and safety we truly enjoy. We doubt that residents of cities or other places where people reside would enjoy having ATVs racing through their peaceful neighborhoods. We thank you for any consideration. I request, and then again, signed by. So I guess the gist of it is, concern with disrupting of safety and
Any other public comments?
We had,
If you can just state your name and.
want me up there?
Yeah, it's a lot easier to stay here.
We want to see you, Bob.
There you go. Yeah, we had the four-wheeler club, and I have no problem with talking to these people, but they came to our township and they gave their spiel and all that, and they wanted roads opened up. A lot of our roads opened up, and we went house to house and went neighbor to neighbor, and if they wanted it, fine. If they don't want it open, they don't open.
You're talking town roads. now,
Town
right?
roads, town roads, where S comes off the 765th. And that's where I live on the 765th. And they were pretty not very happy. They wanted to know how to get to here otherwise or how to get here otherwise. That's not our problem of how to get here or there with all this stuff when it's closed. And so we made it, we showed the names, this, that they don't want it. And afterwards, actually he went outside. I didn't go outside, but they were pretty not very happy, swearing this, that, and everything else. Hey, if you live out there, you paid a premium to get out there, and it's a very quiet neighborhood, dirt roads. You get dust, this and that, and then ours is a closed road. You would think, and we get our neighbors with theirs and this and that. We don't care. That's fine. But when you get these 8, 10, 12 in a row and all that stuff, then we just don't want it in our neighborhood. And you could say, well, keep your road closed. Yeah, that's fine. It don't happen. It's closed now. S is closed. Every year it's more and more and more. So if you open up S or N, it's going to be nonstop. Now you think, well, yeah, you don't know really what he's talking about, but my daughter and husband work for Polaris. They build these things too. It's open up where they are. And you go up there, my daughter lives in Irvington, down where it's open. And it's not one, it's not a neighbor, it's not this or that. It's a lot of them. And do they follow the 35? It's like anything else. You got the good people and the bad people. And the bad usually wreck it for the good. And it's just unbelievable. The other day I had one go by at one of them racing ones. He told me, we were up in the yard with the grandkids. We'll see who that was. Well, yeah, right. I get down to F and it's gone on F somewhere. I don't even know which way it went, but it was good. It was fast. And so do I know who it was? No. Could I get a number off the side of it to tell you who it was? Absolutely not. And we'll get the ones here and there. I was bow hunting in a tree last year and I had this thick binoculars and this old guy, I think 2 old guys in it. And yeah, they were doing 5 miles an hour, this and that. Do I care if they're a farm guy or a neighbor next door? I don't care about that. And that's fine. They were nice and they were polite when they went back and forth. They weren't doing all this stuff. But we do get the kids that are turning everything and all that and ripping the roads up. And yeah, that's not, and it's not open, no. But I got a feeling if you open S and start bringing the clubs in, you're going to have a lot more than it is right now, way more. Right now, it's tolerable the way it is.
if you open it up, I think we're gonna have a lot more of it, and they, I never knew it, but the towns are reliable really for the signs. I didn't know that. She's looking up stuff, but every half mile you're supposed to have signs put on the roads and all. I didn't know that. And all the stuff going on, and you can send the clubs back something for them to pay for the signs if it happens or not. I don't know. Are we gonna be responsible for it? Probably. Even if you don't want it, you'll be responsible for it if it gets passed. So that's just my comment, and I thank you.
Morning. My name's Jeff Danoff. I live up in the area up there by Bob. Basically, a lot of what he's saying is what I have to say. First of all, I am a four-wheeler. I'm a rider. I love it. I have fun. I've always went to trails. Why they want to run these vehicles on the road, it eats tires up anyway. I went to that meeting at the town hall up there, and the four-wheeler clubs, they were there, and they paint this rosy picture how everybody gets along so good, and it's good for the businesses. I have a very basically family friend who was with that club that it's caused hard feelings between us. But I went with them for a ride up there just to see what it was. And we basically left. This is not in Dunn County, but it's opened up there. It was all roads. And all you heard is, don't pull over anywhere on this road, just stay off here. Because the landowners up there are so mad that they said, do not get off the trails. By talking with a few of the landowners that live up there now that it's open, they said they never even knew it was even coming. And then all of a sudden they say it's open. Basically what affects me too would be over there on that N and S. And like they say, they come flying through, not all of them. And it ain't that much even four-wheelers anymore as it is the side-by-sides and the big, the bigger ones. So I guess, besides even being a safety, I had some names in that too. I was waiting for the public comment meeting when it's coming up, but I haven't talked to anybody on Highway N except for one that really didn't care. The rest of them were adamant about not wanting it. And I told them that that's why they need to sign this and to make the county board aware of how they feel. So I know a lot more of it will be addressed at the public meeting that we have coming up. But like, again, I'm not against all of them, but right now in the summer here, even in the winter, it's going to stop on these roads here that it's already started as far as I'm running. And that's basically, I thank you for the opportunity.
Anything else? Good. Places, item chairs, none. Staff reports on the Dustin.
Turn it over to Brent.
Well, we continue to fill potholes. Hopefully you guys are seeing that. We've went through a lot of material already. So we're continuing doing that. Are hoping we don't get any snow this weekend. There is a slight chance. Hopefully we don't have to deal with that. We are still doing some brushing. We're working on, we are demoing a mastic machine right now. They're out on the interstate right now. Filling some cracks and some cracked concrete out in the pavement. They're breaking it out a little bit. It's seems like it's working pretty good. I mean, it's a slow process. It takes time but it's faster than concrete.
Is this a new machine that
The new machine we're demoing stuff is we have the patch buggies.
Yep.
Stuff.
Yep. So this is different than those.
Yeah, we had talked about it last
Yeah,
month, right?
it's similar, just has a little more rock in it.
Okay.
It sets up it. I guess you could say they say it's a longer fix. I mean, this doesn't come out like patch material.
Sure.
I mean, when it snows, rains, we go over it, the patch comes out. This stuff does not. So I know there's a patch over in Eau Claire that I went and looked at probably 10 years ago when they did it. And it's still there. So.
Is that on blacktop and cement?
They can do it on blacktop and cement.
Okay.
Yep. But this stuff is, we are putting it on the cement instead of tearing it out, putting concrete in.
Cause if you ever see Highway, 29 over by the Wheaton Town Hall.
Yep.
Yeah, they got cracks in that cement like that, all
Oh, yeah.
between there and that 29 Pines.
Some of that stuff right now, some of those cracks we're filling out on the interstate. Some are like that. So we continue to do that. We, getting our.
If the road gets hot, is it bulbs in it?
I don't think so. And that's what we're trying to kind of keep from happening out on the interstate. We're doing some of those that are probably that would bulb, that would crack and explode in the heat. We're hoping that this is going to help that. So we're working on that right now today. Yesterday we ended up going out, did a culvert replacement in one of the townships that had a washout in the river. We are getting our shoulder machines ready. Gonna be going out and doing that soon. We are gonna be putting our salt sand away in sheds. Some of the townships are taking that. We'll be hauling that next week. We'll be working on some bridges, washing, cleaning bridges. We're finishing up guardrail and trying to get ready to start our projects. So we'll probably be hopefully starting on June, maybe the end of May, early June up on B, not a little before if weather permits. I know next week we're gonna go take some trees down up there. Yeah, just pretty much trying to, we're gonna be going around. We have been dealing with drainage issues, not many this year. So we're gonna go around and get if there's any bad spots, get some locates, check culverts. Any bad culverts, we'll have to replace that and do some ditching. And other than that, same old. We'll be hauling chips again here when the road bands come off. They sound like they're coming off real quick. So I'll let Dan talk about the shop and then Dustin can talk about the road bands, I'm sure.
Plans on the road ditches where the wings got away on them.
Yeah, we'll be going fixing those up too. Taking the skid steers out when it dries up enough.
Just pull them up.
Yep, we'll pull them up and then,
Up here.
it was a tough year and I know there were some spots where we had some new guys that learned the bad way.
It happens. It's only my yard. Shoulders are soft. It's too easy to.
That kind of hard on the wings then when they grab like that.
It can be sometimes.
Where'd it go?
Sometimes we break the arm, sometimes it's a little loose.
Do we add gravel too if it needs it, or?
We do, yep. Yep. So we'll be pulling that up, doing the reclaiming. And if we need to add, we have many, many places, we just gotta have the money to do it. That is a fact, I mean.
Yeah. No, I know.
You know, we have a couple guys that are out pretty much all summer long shouldering.
I know some push shoulders are getting pretty low.
Yeah.
You can bring them up a little bit.
Also, we will be starting the craft foam machine where you go out and you fill the cracks, and usually we put toilet paper over it, but we don't put toilet paper on it anymore. We just spray it with a little mixture. It's done, just soap and water, and people can drive right on it. So we will be starting that soon. And we're sweeping intersections and hills and stuff like that. We are working on those. Go ahead, Dan.
Okay, I'll start out. I put a little information together for you guys. Thought it was kind of interesting. It's been a long winter, and this kind of shows it here. If you start out here, 21-22 plowing season. I went from November to March, which is usually the months. And you can see the gallons that we that year was 60,000 gallons, 60,029. And I averaged the price out that we paid for it, and that figures to $189,000, you know, in that season. Then you go to this year's season, and there's quite a difference. You know, December was a lot of fuel. January was a lot of fuel. February, March, it ended up being 81,000 gallons. 624. That's 20,000 gallons more than what we used in the 21-22 season. And of course, the price went up, 3.5 a gallon, which we buy it about 50 cents a gallon cheaper because we buy it in tanker loads than what you can get at the, you know, the gas station. And that was the total cost of, you know, 285,000. So we spent an extra 72,000 this year just in fuel alone compared to last year. This next page is our blade usage. In 21-22 season, we used 58 rubber blades, 28 of the carbide, 2 of the grader blades, 40 of the carbide front plow blades, 7 wing short and, 7 wing blades long and 10 of the shorter ones, and then 43 shoves, which is the underbody carbide blades. And that came to a total of 48,196, which is really good. But I've seen it in the past where we've spent over 100,000 replenishing our blades that we've used, and I contribute that to a lot of the rubber blades. They last so much longer. They do a better job of cleaning, and we don't spend a lot of time changing them. You know, you're going to get two. We would have 2 sets of regular carbides to 1 rubber. So, you know, so the shop isn't spending a lot of time changing them either. And of course, this season, which was probably one of the worst snow seasons we've had in a long time, we used 108 rubber blades, 15 carbide, which is less carbide, 7 grader blades, 39, which is pretty much the same, 5 of the wing blades, which is pretty much the same, cover blades cover the front plow, more wing blades, and 36 shove blades, which again is the underbody. And that's one discussion that we're having, you know, is the usage of the underbody. And again, that falls back on the rubber blades because the rubber blades clean so much better that a lot of guys are not using the underbody for straight. You know. And we have talked about whether, you know, we should keep putting the underbodies on. So last year was 69,257 basically. So that's, you know, and there's going to be a few little bits of odds and ends. And I went by last year's prices, so it's probably going to be 80,000 to replace the blades that were used this year. Just so it just kind of gives you an idea of.
And this doesn't include any overtime for the guys either, right?
No, this is just the.
Well, I understand.
The fuel and what I deal with, the fuel and the cutting it out. That's all.
Oh, they got plenty of it.
Yeah.
Because there's a big difference between the 2 seasons. Is the first season, is that more normal? Like the, you know,
I think
21 to 22?
Probably a little less.
A little less.
Yeah, I think it was light. But but it's so hard to predict.
Every year is different, I know.
Every year is different. You know, we got right down to pretty much out of the rubber blades, and I got a few more in here at the end, but probably wouldn't have needed them. You know, so we've used way more than that. You know, and we try to. What I put a blade order in as we always keep a certain amount of everything, you know, the same. So we just replace what we lose and everything else. The new trucks have been really fantastic. You know, we've got new triaxles and a couple new tandems, and that's really helped a lot as far as the breakdowns and time that we spend. The ones that are breaking down are the older ones that need replacement. You know, and that's costing us a lot. And with that, you know, being able now, we can take more things out. We're taking everything out of storage, plus the stuff that we had in. We're able to go through it ahead of time, you know, which is good because now they're, you know, yesterday they pulled the backhoe out and that was ready, and you know we're keeping ahead of the game. And it also helps too that we're finally fully staffed. It took a long time, you know, before we finally, you know, got our staff up there. I think next week we're gonna start removing the wings on the triaxles. Just that, probably just in case, you never know. But we try to get a jump on that because, you know, you've got 21 trucks just in those between the triaxles and quads. Well, the quads went on, but the triaxles is quite a few cams. So it takes quite a while to, you know, to change them back over to summer. Taking all the snow equipment off. So we try to get a jump on it. We're working on that. Crushing equipment auction, you guys all know that went really well. They picked up the last piece on Monday, so it's all gone. That's done. Dustin and I are trying to put together another auction with some miscellaneous stuff that we don't use and want to get rid of, and clean everything up. This past week, we swapped out our skid steers that rollout program and John Deere. That way, you know, it's a really great thing for us because it's, you know, they charge us just $8 an hour as long as there's no damage, you know, and they're fully under warranty. And the last time I looked, it was $30-some an hour that we get when we use them on state projects. So if we can use them enough on state projects, we basically get them for free. And that's the same with we've got a 60 excavator John Deere that we use for smaller stuff and brushing and stuff like that. And we'll probably swap that out next week with the same deal, $8 an hour. And that revenue was a whole lot more. So we really make. We're still having a hard time getting parts, you know, since this COVID thing. It's just been awful. Dan O'Connell in the parts room is doing a great job. I mean, you got to be pretty creative. We end up pulling parts out of, you know, all over the United States. They just aren't available, and no parts. You know, we can't get the trucks fixed. Other than that, I guess that's about all I've got. And again, we'll be working on switching everything up. But things are going well. And, you know, and like I said, I contribute a lot of that to the, you know, to the new trucks that we purchased, you know, and got rid of some of the problem trucks that we call them, you know, because we've had trucks that just break down normal, you know, and we've gotten rid of those, replaced them with new ones. We have 4 on order for this fall. They were supposed to come in April, and now they're talking possibly 2 at the end of July, and then 2 later on in the fall, which is, yeah, it's late. Yeah, you know, and right now we need to be putting an order in for 2025 because it takes a full year, you know, to get the darn things, and they won't even give us a price, you know, and I guess I personally would like to stay with international because 90% of our fleet is international, and uniformity is a great thing along with parts. You know, we don't have to stock, you know, as many parts, and the mechanics, you know, get used to a truck, you know, and they know that, you know, the obvious things or most of the things that go wrong with them, so they can find the problem a lot quicker. But again, I don't know how we're going to do it because as far as the bid process, because you really, what are you going to bid? Because if they can't give you a price, you know, how are you going to do it? And then the cost, you know, I think what are they, 250? I think it was right around there, completed per truck. Well, 4 of them is $1 million, and that takes care of our equipment budget right there. So, you know, I'm not sure. We really need our equipment budget. It's been that for, well, since I started working here 12 years ago. It's never changed, you know, and everything else is, the price of everything skyrocketed. And we're forecasting that next year's truck are probably going to cost $300. That's a $50,000 jump. That's another $200. You know, so the outlook doesn't look. And all the other equipment, whether you're buying, you know, loaders, dozers, you know, everything's just jumping. and they won't give you a price on it either.
So on these new trucks, like you say, like you like the International,
Mhm.
what kind of motor are you kind of sticking to? Or
Yeah,
does like International have their own motor, or do you go with a Cummins or a Cat motor, or?
yeah, International has their own motor.
Okay.
They started out with like an N13 liter engine. I think they stopped about probably 5 years ago, and we do have a couple of N13s that we don't have any trouble with them. They revised that engine in the 826 now. It's 450 horse, and we've got a lot of it. You know. And it's cleaner engine as far as working on it and stuff. They don't have as much stuff hanging. And we keep that same motor all the time, the 826.
It'd be a lot easier to have all like your oil filters and air filters.
Correct.
You know, and not, well, this one here's a different one, and
Yeah, like I
it's a
said,
lot easier.
uniformity is a big thing. You know, even on the plow bit. I mean, and there's night and day when different companies install plow equipment.
I think we're way more uniform now than we were when we.
Yeah, we've made a lot of progress. You know, and it's and like I said, the new trucks are really paying off because you're not working on them and putting all the parts on. And on our older trucks, it's 90% emission. All that darn emission stuff is steady. You know, and most of it's electrical wiring. You know, so we're in the harshest environment with the salt and stuff, and the plug-ins get corroded, and there's a ball of wires in them. And if one little wire goes bad, it derates the truck in there.
And how do you find out what wire and what part of it is bad? That's what.
Gotta have that part, gotta have that $200,000 thing to plug in there.
We do.
And then that doesn't.
Yeah, we do have 3 different diagnostic tools that we use for different ones. You know, we've got one just specifically for international. One is kind of generic for all of them. And then we've got one that does our equipment. Then also we subscribe to Mitchell One, and that gives us the wiring diagram and suggestions. You know, but otherwise we would lost. And it's really hard to keep up on it. The manufacturers don't give you a lot of it. They hold it back, especially the new stuff, which is okay if it's under warranty, but once it's not, you know. But we've got one in Eau Claire right now that Deafline heater went bad on, and that was under warranty, so we took it over there and I go let them, fix it. But again, that derates the truck. There you go. But as a whole, the trucks have been really good. So, that's about all I've got. Ask any questions.
Yeah, it's nice to see the gallons used and stuff here too. I mean, it does, gives us, you know, compared to last year, how things work.
Right, it gives
You a good number instead of we work whatever, you know, I mean, there's how many gallons more we use, so obviously there's more hours and everything else. So I appreciate that. So thanks.
Do you have any other questions on our side? On the field side?
Anybody? Nothing? I guess I got one. Why do you sweep the intersections? Just asking.
Motorcycles.
Motorcycles.
Yeah,
That's the main reason.
motorcycles, stuff like that, otherwise. Yeah, if we don't,
I can understand the bridges, you know, to get alongside, but. I just
bridges
wondered.
and intersections and stuff like that.
Okay.
and Pretty much for motorcycles.
Guy asked me and I said, to be honest with you, I really don't know.
That is why,
Okay.
public safety.
Yeah, and that's where most of the salt sand is put.
I don't understand.
And hills and corners. Try to do hills, corners, and intersections.
All right.
And just why-
And they're out now.
I couldn't believe it.
Yeah, they're just.
A week ago, there.
Yeah,
A lot of them won't go up until after the roads are up
Yeah.
because
Right.
it is dangerous.
It is.
You lose the traction.
Sure.
So Brent, like, why does it, like, on Highway B, the eastern part, there's so many potholes, but right in the middle, that when you lay the blacktop down, there's all that little seam where the water can get in?
Sometimes that we've had, not a whole lot lately, but man, that's been like that for a while. But yes, that seems sometimes
Just can't get
can
out.
just break apart. We've had other roads that are worse and then some that
Okay.
are fine. But I don't know who paved that back, if we did or if. But sometimes that seam just,
Opens up a
It's
little
the
bit.
weakest part of your
yeah.
pavement.
I
It's your center
know,
line.
out on County Road 2, that was bad.
Yeah, and it's really disappointing. That road's not that old.
Yeah.
It's really
Really
starting
bad.
to chunk out. You know, it's almost like the mix isn't mixed enough.
It
or
doesn't
something
like
in
mesh
it.
together.
Something
Yeah.
in it. Maybe they're not screening the recycled stuff. I don't know, they use- But what do? You know, they're the only one in town. So
Yeah,
you're kind of-
you hope that they're making it the way they used to, but I mean, I know that their product has lessened a little bit.
I know you're limited with, you know, the machinery, the way you lay it, you know, it's got a certain width and kind of where it matches, especially on a 2-lane road that you're talking about where it splits apart. I kind of took note the other day driving down the South Road there, you know, the new part that they just did last summer, where they put 3 rows in there. So you're driving over the top of the seam, so it's not getting pounded, you know? I was like, oh, this probably will stay together a little longer, you know, maybe it's not.
I don't know if it's really or not.
Time will tell.
Time will tell. People were,
All right.
I'll keep my comment. As I
honestly,
travel.
what they did there. Yeah, people were complaining before they did it and how it was gonna be, and it's all right. People thought it was gonna be congested. I don't know.
So far, I haven't driven it much, but it hasn't been as bad as I thought it was.
No, I thought it was gonna be bad, and
I think once people learn how to use the turn lane, to me, that's what I'm seeing. Staying here, and then all of a sudden, oh, it's like, dude, you could have got over.
Yeah.
But,
And the silly arrows. the
Yeah.
Directional arrows.
Yeah.
I don't know how long.
All right. Anything else? Get them deer crossing signs.
Yeah.
And they don't do that anymore.
All right.
You want to talk about road bans?
Yeah, so, road bans will officially be coming off Monday, the 17th. We will be following suit, with the counties around us. Blair, Pepin, Pierce, Buffalo. Chippewa is going on off the 20th. They're gonna wait 4 more days. St. Croix, I think, is right around that 20th as well, so. We have very little frost in the ground, if any. Everything's drying out pretty good from what I see. Obviously, the riverbanks and stuff are all flooded right now, but in the roadway, I think we're faring really well, so. Yeah, we'll be taking them down, Monday the 17th, and I'll be posting that out to the World Wide Web here probably tomorrow. Other than that, I did want to mention, obviously, before we get too far along, the implementation of some highway work rules that we implemented here. Met with, obviously, Chris and HR regarding some of our current policies that we've had at our county facilities. Prior to these implementation of the work rules, we allowed mechanics to come in and fix their personal vehicles after hours. We've had people come and wash their personal vehicles. We just looked at it as it was a huge safety concern and a liability concern as well. So we did retract those, and we no longer allowing any employees to access the facilities unless it's work related. With that being said, we do obviously have a question that we're gonna have to review, regarding our mechanic tools. Currently, all the mechanics and welders bring their own personal tools, which is their property on county property. So we are reviewing that, as about the possibility of the county purchasing the tools for the mechanic use. But obviously, that's, something we're gonna have to tackle. They're not cheap by any means, we all know that. We did have a couple manufacturers come in of Snap-on and give us some pricing. Obviously, we were kind of blown away by it.
I bet.
Oh, yeah.
So, can I ask a question? So mechanics that bring their own tools, I've seen that a lot, you know. Friends that go out and get hired by somebody. Bring a toolbox, use their own tools, and so you brought up the concern about liability or whatever. Is it liability for the theft, or, you know, you afraid employees, you know, they break their 3/4 inch Snap-on wrench or Craftsman or whatever, and they have to replace it, they asking for us to pay for that, or is it more, I guess I'm not real sure.
What the big liability is trying to limit employee access after hours to the in general.
So
Since
come
it
and
is
get
their,
your tools, go home
yeah,
and work on
we
it.
have allowed that in the interim currently. If a mechanic wants to grab their personal tool, we will allow them. We just won't allow them to wrench on
Stay here.
anything. That's the biggest safety concern we have.
So they can still access the tools, but they
Yes.
can't stay here.
Currently.
Put new
Yes.
brakes on their truck.
So do the employees get paid for bringing their own tools, working
That's
on
right.
county equipment?
So they get an
Allowance?
allowance every year. It's a $500 allowance.
Okay.
For purchasing any new tools. Obviously, a lot of these tools are lifetime warranty. If there's a specific tool that is specific to a lot of this equipment, the county is purchasing that specific tool, so the mechanic does not have to.
But my only other comment is, if the county would buy the equipment, I think that might be lost a lot easier than if you personally own it. You're a lot more, you lock up your tools so it don't walk away, but
One of the things in my mind, again, my last comment on this is, what about the possibility of what I would term splitting it? So they bring their Snap-on toolbox with all their hand tools, you know, wrenches, sockets, screwdrivers, stuff. They own that, like currently, okay? We look into what that stipend is a year or whatever. That, if that stipend is good, the way it is, or if it's bumped a little one direction or the other. But then maybe the county look into owning all like the power tools. So like, you know, your guns, your impact guns, stuff like that.
We own most of them.
Oh, okay.
All they're really required is just their hand tools up to half inch drive.
Yeah, okay.
You know,
Up to half inch.
Up to half, anything larger than that. We
Okay.
have them in our.
3/4 inch of stuff that you guys have.
Yeah, you know, one of the things, you know, we don't have any insurance on the guy's toolbox either, if something happens to the shop, or
Okay.
somebody steals them, the county doesn't have any insurance on them.
Mhm.
And they've been told that, you know, that they should think about that, because some of these guys got over 20 grand stuck in their tools real easy.
I
Yeah,
bet.
it doesn't take long to spend
You
20
know,
grand. It's, yeah. You know, and one thing that we were looking at, if we purchase toolboxes, we can get foam that goes into the drawers, okay, and it's cut out. So every tool has its little spot.
Right.
And then also they engrave right on the tool, Dunn County,
Okay.
you know, so that we know that that's our tool, and then they're responsible if one of them pockets is empty, you know, they're responsible. So that's one way of keeping, you know, an eye on it, or, because, yeah, I mean, they could easily lose them, which they lose theirs right now. I kind of feel sorry for them. They lose a half-inch drive ratchet this long that's Snap-on, you know, it's that's half of their $500 allowance right there. One, you know. So did you get a total price, Dustin, what, for the tools that you, or whoever?
Yeah, so we did get a quote from Snap-on, Industrial. That's in their industrial line, with a 750 tool set and box. It was just over 200,000
For six
sets.
mechanics.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, not per mechanic.
Yeah, that was all six. And then we looked at a 500 tool set, which is your common 1/2 inch and lower. That was like
For the six sets, and still at
Seems
that,
bad.
you know, at that,
And it's bad, but
we would
seems bad to
still,
me.
we would still
Huh?
need one more box. That would be, you know, a shop box. that
Shop,
would have
yeah.
the specialty tools in it,
Mhm,
right?
mhm,
You know, so then you still have that above and beyond. So it's, yeah, tools are very expensive.
And mind you, this would be basically a one-time purchase. They're all lifetime warranty.
Yeah.
Unless you lose one.
It would have to be the upfront cost to try to.
Right, you know, if you stretch it over a 5-year period, it's 40,000. Right. Would be paid for, but this sounds really bad.
Would mechanics be on board for something like that? Is that kind of what they're pushing for?
I have
Doesn't matter.
asked staff, I would beg to say 90% of them are on board with it. The other,
Oh, okay.
the big concern is, okay, if something goes missing, am I gonna get fired for it?
Mm-hmm.
That's their big concern.
Sure.
We're not the only county, I guess. There is St. Croix and Claire, they do have county-owned tools. They went down that route, not been a concern that I'm aware of, what they've told me. That was our big question is, okay, a lot of stuff has legs and walks away. So are we gonna be spending $10,000 a year to replace a lot of these tools?
Mhm.
We don't know that.
You know, and one of the reasons that we kind of looked down the path too was it's getting so hard to hire mechanics. You know, where if we supply the tools, that would hopefully, open it up to a lot more.
True enough. Yeah, that's what I was thinking
True
too. I
enough.
mean, because it is expensive.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's very expensive.
Um,
That's when Dustin and I was, you know, maybe this would help. I mean, we gotta do something because it took almost 2 years to get a full staff.
Right,
You know,
right,
the other
right.
guys retired. It's really, really good. It's gonna get worse.
Yeah. No, I'm just curious how they felt about it versus us just doing something. That's really-
We can't please all of them.
No, no,
I know
no, no. But they'd still be like in charge of the one box, right? I mean,
Correct.
it's their box, that's what they're responsible
And
for.
there would be locks on it. and-
Exactly, yeah, yeah. Okay.
Well, if we have, next couple winters will be like 21, 22.
Good luck.
Say that $100,000 right there per year.
I would think too, if the county bought the tools and had their name engraved on the tools, they'd be more, less apt to be taken off, you know, because you work to employees, for whatever reason, whoops, you got some county tools there. I mean, so I think it'd make the tools stay where they belong a lot easier.
And I think a lot of it is you have to trust.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, we're all adults. I mean, it's-
Mhm.
If you can't trust them, then maybe he shouldn't be
You
here.
don't need it,
Correct.
right?
I would, personally, I think you should go, some way, somehow, get that in the budget.
like I said, it's a
No,
work
I
in
can do that.
progress.
I
It's not
understand.
something we're gonna jump right into.
No, I understand.
It should be something that we can do seriously.
I do too.
As we just kind of explored it. But I think, personally, I think the next step should be taken where we look at how we can build it into the budget and what that looks like.
And we are exploring, like I kind of talked to Dan about getting a breakout for the tools versus the toolbox. Do we have to go with a $15,000 toolbox? Can we go with something a little simpler? Where we can buy maybe two to a one type of thing. The tools, in my opinion, are the most important. The toolbox is how it's so. That's something we'll have to. Reduce the cost anywhere we can.
Sounds good.
And I guess last but not least, I just wanted to mention our Work Zone Awareness Week, so that is next week. That is a national Work Zone Awareness Week. So as you can see, I put a little poster together. We have two versions of it over there on the wall. This was something that Wisconsin County Highway Association put together as a template. I just needed to add some photos, make our own little symbols and steel and all that stuff. So this will be posted to the World Wide Web today or tomorrow. Will be put out with a little excerpt from me. Just kind of be on the lookout. Yeah, this was literally just this week. That photo was
Crash trailer there?
yeah, that is a crash attenuator.
I've never seen.
Yeah, I was wondering what it was when I drove by it.
Yeah, we have 3 of those, and
You do?
hopefully we never have to see it.
Exactly.
Knock on wood, other counties have had them crashed into, but we have not. So hopefully we do not need to. And I just put a little statistics there that was put out by the DOT. There's approximately 23 work zone crashes every year in Wisconsin. In the past 5 years, 63 deaths, 11,000 crashes, 4,300 injuries. And as it knows, it's not, majority of those are the actual passengers, the actual workers, which is good, but not good or bad, but never want to see anybody injured. But I just wanted to put that out there, so that information will be posted as well. We'll go through some of our engineering and projects. I have Isaac here. He'll kind of go through what he's been working on. I'll add to it if necessary. I'm gonna get back to work, guys. It was nice.
Yeah.
If you ever have any questions or wanna come on and look at something,
Be happy to show you.
okay?
Good, thank you.
See you later.
Morning, everybody. Engineering, and some of our projects, over last month. County Road B project, up in Sand Creek. So, we're going where we left off last year, approximately 1330th Avenue, all the way to the bridge in Sand Creek. That project, like Brent mentioned, will be starting the end of May, but, met with a few landowners, regarding tree removal, and if there's any, impacts to their property as far as grading, tree removal. There's a retaining wall complex, on one of the properties within the right of way. With the widening of the road, we had to meet with that owner to discuss removing that structure. And then design on that project, there's a section of County Road B, where there's probably 10 houses within that stretch of road, about 600-foot stretch of road that we're looking at adding curb and gutter for drainage. Not going to be able to get the standard ditch throughout that section, so we took some topo of the roadway. Granted, there was 2 feet of snow while I was doing it, so we got to go up and pick up some more in their yard now that the snow's melting or hopefully gone. But we'll finish that design in the next week or 2 for that curb and gutter section. And then County Road Z project, this is down by Old Galley. Last year we left off at County Road C, and we're going to the south, down to 90th Avenue, which is just about where the boat landing road is, about a half mile north of there. But Brett and the guys have done some tree removal. There's a couple drainage structure culverts that are going to be a little bit difficult to replace, just the way they're drop inlets. with kind of deep drainage, culverts that we're looking at maybe redesigning how they run underneath the road. And then there's a section of hill that we may look at cutting as well on the south end of the project. That there's steep banks right along the roadway. Might see if we can grade that back a little bit, so it's not a vertical face of the hill there. County Road U and W project, just south of Downing. Core Engineering is on board for the real estate acquisition. Justin and I met with the owner. That might have been before the last meeting, but we met with the landowner, show the new limits that we need to purchase right away on the corner of U and W there. It'd be the northeast corner of that intersection. And Core Engineering going through their process. I believe they have the study that completed. Yeah, and then so it's still in. The landowner has 60 days to get their own appraisal. That's where we're at in that process. Then the town of Lucas box culvert is another helping the town design a box culvert. It's on 90th Avenue, so the north branch of Gilbert Creek. This would be east or west of County Road Q as it goes up the hill to the interstate. If you go west on and about a mile, it'd be to the north of that, where Gilbert Creek crosses that township road. So they have it's a 15-foot by 8-foot box culvert that needs replacement. So we completed a design plan set for that, and then sent that out to Hancock Concrete, County Materials, and other contractors to get pricing on the structure. Then County Road G box culvert. This is up north of or south of Wheeler, north of Gainer Lake on County Road G. It'd be about 0.3 miles east of 25 on G. There's an old like cast in place box culvert structure there. We're looking to replace that with just a standard culvert for either 242-inch HDPE culverts look to meet. We did calculated the drainage area and the flow coming to that culvert. Kind of confirmed something that CBS squared calculated the volume of water coming to that structure, and then we just confirmed their calculation. Due to the cover, we were originally looked at a 60-inch, but there wouldn't be any cover on the structure, so we're looking at 242 inches to fit it under the road there.
So a question on the culvert, do they ever get big enough where you get some state aid to get help, for federal bridges? Is there a certain point where a box culvert would qualify?
So it has to be a structure over 20 feet in width.
So if they go underneath the road, that's 20 foot is pretty easy.
So basically it'd be your opening of your culvert from abutment to abutment, so face to face. So it has to be over 20 feet in length in order to qualify for federal or state funds. Unfortunately, these structures here are not qualified.
Yeah, like the town of Lucas, it'd be 60 feet long, across the roadway, but it's only 16 feet wide. So yeah, that's 20.
And the town of Lucas, they can apply for bridge aid, county bridge aid once it's completed. So 50% of that cost is paid for. Unfortunately, our county road
project, would can't apply for free days.
And the last item up there was, we had, SOQ out for 2 bridge structures. One is out on County Road P on Irvington Creek, so that would be southwest of Menominee, out towards Weston area. Oh, there's some pictures here. County Road P is in the middle there. County Road G, the left picture, one we're gonna replace with 2 42-inch culverts. One in the middle will be designed, I forget which company.
Yeah, I don't wanna make it known quite yet. DOT hasn't approved it, but,
Okay.
yeah, the one on P is scheduled for 2026, and the one on B is scheduled for 2025 for replacement. And those 2 on the right are federally funded at 80-20 match.
We had the engineers submitted, their statement of qualifications, and then we reviewed those, submitted to the state, our recommendation.
And we put it all on Randy's shoulder. So if it's wrong, it's his fault. Yeah, some other random things, I jotted down, been getting our, radar, traffic counter out last couple weeks out on County Road D and G up by Jake. Just trying to get some traffic count information up in that area. And then it'll also move out to County Road B, for the, north of Packer Drive for that project, this summer. So we have some data for pavement design out on County Road B. So that's been moving that around every few days. So if you see a big trail camera looking thing on a telephone pole, it's a traffic counter. The end of March, I went to commissioners training, the Wisconsin County Highway Association down in Fond du Lac. There's some good information there. Met a few folks from the area. And I guess the rest of the driveway permits and utility permits, been pretty busy with those 2 lately. Helping complete those, but yeah, I guess that's it for my update. Anything you want to add, Dustin? I think you summed it up perfectly.
Make the window open now.
Knock in the window, he'll stop.
It's just us.
Yeah, we don't care.
If there's no questions with engineering and projects, we'll move into the equipment. As Dan stated before, we switched out the 5 skid steers and the 1 mini excavator. That's based on our yearly hourly rate, that $8 per hour, what they charge based on the hourly rate. So we get new units every year. They have actually, typically we were supposed to do that in June, but they wanted them now, so we switched them out. And they're looking at switching it out again this fall, so that we'll have all 5 new skid steers and 1 new mini excavator, which will be done 2 times in 1 year. So I have talked to John Deere. They are basically possibly not going to be doing it.
All right. I mean, this is the last year of that, or, year left, or is that just the last year?
This would potentially be the last
That's
year.
what I thought. I knew it coming up.
Yeah, so we're gonna have to go back to the drawing board, see if that's something we want to continue. Maybe if John Deere wants to still do it, well, as of right now, it's kind of up in the air.
As they do with it.
Yeah, and if If not, if they change the rate, we'll have to maybe explore other places. Yeah, so and,
Cause I think the, like, Bobcat, I think the village does that.
Oh,
yep.
I don't know what.
yeah, Bobcat didn't have some of the equipment that we needed, that's why we. But
And I have asked Dan to, we're gonna explore our shop loader to see if that's something we can do, similar situation, or a lease program or something, because we're putting a lot of hours on our shop loader here. We have over 10,000 hours on that, in it right now, and fortunately, it's not in our 5-year plan, so we're gonna have to explore some other options. But I just wanted you to be aware, so we did, switch those out. We are looking at, with these 4 new trucks coming, obviously, we did talk to International. It's looking like the end of June for 2 of the trucks, and October for the other 2 trucks, just the truck and chassis. And then there's probably another month or 2 or more, to put the equipment on. With the equipment, we had spec'd tailgate tanks for our salt brine, which is only 175 gallon capacity. That is absolutely obsolete in today's standards. So I've requested us to look into wedge style slide-in tanks. And I do have a picture of this. So these are our wedge tanks. They are custom fabricated to match the truck. I did have a vendor come in and kind of measure some stuff and looking at what capacity we could get with liquid and granular. On the right-hand side there, that is a picture of Taylor County's brand new truck that they just got last year with that wedge tank in it. So as you can see, it slides in and you can put salt or sand on top of that wedge tank. That is plastic, that is 100% HDP plastic, 3/4 inch thick. What I like about these is we can actually get some brine capacity to match the load of material that's on that truck. 175 gallon tanks literally gets us nowhere. And I don't want to keep just throwing money out the door when we're putting these on these trucks and not using it, not getting the capacity.
what capacity is this?
So that particular tank right there is 1,800 gallons. I'm not looking for something that big. And that's on a quad axle truck, but we'd be looking at putting these in every one of our trucks going forward. We're not going to go and start retroing all of our fleet, but that's something I want to explore. They're not cheap by any means. We're looking at probably 15,000 to 25,000 a piece for them. But what isn't cheap today? So what's nice about these is we're anticipating, and then even the manufacturer's anticipating a 20-year lifespan of these. So we can put them into the next truck if we would down the road. Obviously, it'd have to be the same configured truck, but eventually that's what we have to get to.
So you would hope that these truck manufacturers
Yes.
would keep building their trucks friendly to usable equipment, like this, where you can.
And the one downfall to these is obviously in the summer months, you got to pull them out of your trucks and store them somewhere. So that's where my addition to this building comes into play. I was told because they are plastic, you cannot let them be out in the sunlight all summer long. Otherwise, the weld will deteriorate very quickly.
Oh,
Yeah.
So they have to be in shade, under cover of some sort. They can be outside.
We can plant more trees.
We got to have somewhere where it's shaded, I guess, or under cover. But like I said, that's something we're exploring. We do have a contract with Universal to outfit these 4 new trucks with those tailgate tanks. We do have time they have not purchased them, they have not fabricated anything. What we're exploring is obviously there would be a change in cost for these four new trucks. The wedge style tanks versus the tailgate tanks. The tailgate tanks, I think we're right around that $6,000 outfitted, and if we're looking at 20,000, we'd have an additional cost. But I think it's something that we could utilize a lot more. There's a lot of times where I think we could just put liquid down instead of granular. We can also have a capacity where we can just have a spray bar underneath the spreader in the back of the truck, where we could just spray liquid.
Yeah.
Our ultimate goal is to right around that 600 to 1,000 gallons is our goal. Like to see these trucks. Like I said, it's a work in progress right now, and if we do go to these styles, obviously there's going to be a change in the contract price, so we'd have to obviously get that all addressed and approved and all that. So
I have a dumb question. Maybe you answer it. Can you have this wedge tank in there and still put soap or sand on top of it?
yes,
So you can go out with both the sand and brine at the same.
That's what that's sold, I take it.
yeah.
That's a kind of
Yeah,
thought,
so
but this-
right now we're utilizing brines to treat the salt as it's coming out of the auger. So we're spraying liquids in the salt as it's coming out. Right now, that 175 gallon tank doesn't get us very far. So they're constantly filling them up, and then at the halfway down their beat, they're not even laying liquid down. So like I said, we're not the only county. Every county is going to this. Eventually, we're going to have to get on board with it too. And I look at it as if we got 4 trucks that are being built right this year, worth exploring right now.
But that liquid stuff the brine can only be used when the temperature isn't terrible cold.
Yeah,
Is that
so
right? So
straight brine with no additives is 19 degrees is the cutoff. We do utilize it to pre-treat it all the time, even if it's below that 19 degrees, and we will put an additive in it to help with the lower temperatures. But if we can put more liquid down, we will save the cost on the granular. Salt brine liquid is usually right around that 7 to 10 cents a gallon versus $89 per ton for salt.
So why is the salt brine more friendly?
So it's majority of water with 23.3% salt.
But the
So
salt
it's just-
sand is majority sand.
Correct.
So there's more salt in the salt sand than in the brine.
The biggest thing you want to do, the big reason for the push for salt brines is if you can create a slurry. Basically, if you can make that material wet when it's landing on the road, it stays on the road versus blowing off. That's the biggest advantage to
That
it.
makes sense.
Our county trucks who just use straight salt sand have noticed a major difference. So, and it does help melt it as well. So it's, to me, it's a no-brainer to go down this road, but like I said, it all boils down to a cost. We're in that process to explore that. Any questions?
Looks like their highway shop has a lot of room.
I'm not going to say anything about that. Could be pictures are deceiving.
Just looking at that.
I just wanted to mention, so we did submit 2 applications for some BIL funding, which is the bipartisan infrastructure law. It was only allowed for bridge projects. So we did have 2 qualifying bridge projects that either potentially could be replaced or rehabilitation, which is basically a new deck, doing whatever cosmetic upgrades to get the bridge up to date. So we had that one on P17-936, which is on County Road Q in the north branch of the Wilson Creek. It's a single span bridge built in 1944. It's a very narrow bridge that is qualified for a bridge replacement. obviously, we submitted the application for it for, I believe, a 2024 or 5, I think it was a 25 construction, what we're looking at. We'll get more information from the DOT, which projects are selected. From what we're hearing, all bridge projects are going to be approved. That's what we're hearing. There's so much BIL funding supposedly out there that the state doesn't know what to do with it. So they are trying to emphasize the bridge replacements and rehabilitations right now, because there is such a large number. The other bridge is a rehabilitation project submittal. That's on B 1778 on County Road D in the Red Cedar River. That's right in Irvington. That's a 4-span bridge built in 1975. We're looking at putting a bridge deck overlay, so that would be milling approximately 2 inches of the deck surface off and relaying it with new concrete. Approach repairs, which would be updated guardrail approach, as well as some drainage settlement that we have occurring on the approaches. So that would be addressed. The abutment repairs, I don't know if some of you are familiar with maybe walking the trail that goes underneath that bridge. But we do have a pretty significant amount of falling happening on the abutments, which were basically your foundation of your bridge that your girders sit on, and then your deck surface is on top of that.
So on that highway D bridge, with the overlay, are you putting on any more weight that might compromise if you're gonna do a 2-inch?
Yeah, so
Right.
basically,
You're not gonna add any more weight?
potentially there might be. So if we mill 2 inches off and put 2.5 inches back, obviously there'd be a calculation performed on it. That would all be included with it. And I spelled scour wrong, apparently it's scout. But we do have some scour, which is the channel of the stream or the river is eroding around the piers. It's pretty common, but we would like to address that by adding some scour countermeasures, grout bags, riprap, whatever we can to eliminate scour there. So these projects would all be, if approved, would all be contracted out. And the one thing I didn't mention in here is these are potentially 100% funded through this BIL program. So I guess I did mention that.
Would you have to have like a Cedar Corps or somebody have a like design for them to get 100%?
Yeah, so it would be engineered and it'd be the same process like those previous 2 structures that Randy and I and Isaac and did some statement of qualifications. So we submit that to engineering firms. They provide their qualifications and their expertise on the bridge. We select them, send it off to the state, and the state does all the contract work. So yeah, there's going to be more information to come on that. And they are soliciting another round here in May for some more BIL funding for bridge structures and adding some more bridges to the list potentially. So like I said, the state's really looking at pushing to fund these bridges. That's just a picture of the Irvington Bridge there on D, just so you put a picture to it. And that's the bridge on County Road Q for a potential replacement. As you can see how narrow it is, see the approach rail comes into the bridge and not straight. So. LRIP pilot program, I just wanted you to be aware of this, just in case some of the towns start coming to you, asking questions. So there is a discussion going on currently with the Wisconsin County Highway Association, the DOT, the Towns Associations, and the League of Municipalities regarding the next upcoming 2024-2025 LRIP program cycle. Spelled road again, but don't. We'll let that slide. So the current process is every even year there's a new LRIP cycle. So this is state dollars allocated to local projects. So So 2024 will be the next cycle, the next one after that will be in 2026. So the way that it works currently is all 72 counties administer the LRIP program for the local towns, cities, and villages. We contract with the DOT, which we receive $7,000 from the state to oversee this program. The Towns Association is requesting a pilot program with the Wisconsin County Highway Association, the DOT, to administer this instead of the counties doing it. The Northwest region has agreed to participate in this pilot program. It's in the preliminary stages currently. It's unfortunate. I've asked a couple of the towns around here if they've heard any wind of this, and nobody has heard anything. So apparently I'm the one that's spreading the word, that there's a potential that this may change going forward, but we are looking at a pilot program. Just so you're aware, if any town official comes and asks you, or maybe he's not for it or against it or whatever, I will tell you, I do spend a lot of my time with this LRIP program. I think more than I would like. It's a difficult process due to a lot of the town officials change hands constantly, and it's reteaching the new regime every time. So there's a lot of requirements that go along with this. Advertisements, you have to have engineering involved or not. There's a lot more to it behind the scenes that a lot of the towns don't understand and realize. But yeah, that's something we're exploring. If it takes lessens my workload, I guess all for it. At least exploring it. Like I said, that's just something that's in the works currently. So more information to come on that as well.
It seems questionable that the towns would actually take that on.
I would just, it seems like a lot of local, everyone wants local, and then that's kind of like going to away from a local type.
What really stirred this up is with this last cycle of the state transportation funding program, a lot of the towns were able to apply for that same pot of money that the counties are currently receiving. So there was an application process, and none of the towns knew what to do.
Right.
So that's where the Towns Association came into play. It's like, okay, counties aren't suiting them properly for their needs. Well, unfortunately, that was not our job to do this. So the Towns Association stepped in, and now they want to basically administer that as well as the LRIP program. There's some counties that maybe are not doing the job they should be. I can't say that about Dunn County. I think we've done very well. A lot of the towns, they come to me and Isaac for questions. So we'll see, I guess.
If I was in a town, I would not be taking over control. I tell you that right now, because I have to deal with some of this now. They're very behind us.
That conference that I went to, they had a presentation on this, and the Towns Association said they'd need 2 to 3 additional employees just for the pilot program. And then if it goes statewide, they would need 6 to 8 more.
We'll let them deal with that.
I understand your point. Yeah, it does take a lot of your time. Don't get me wrong, but I don't think as a town I would be for that.
Yep. No, I completely understand that. We'll see what happens.
That's up to towns.
Absolutely. We'll hop into the highway financials. Obviously, you can see it's January, February, and March financials that we have here overall. We are looking at a pretty significant budget surplus right there in that, middle on the right-hand side for projections. That is obviously due to carryover funds that we're looking at for our B projects. We're anticipating hopefully right around that 2.7 to 3 million to carry forward for next year, to complete our B projects, from 1229 to Packer Drive. So that's, like I said, it's early yet. We really haven't had a whole lot of numbers in here quite yet. We aren't getting it into the construction where all of a sudden you'll see millions of dollars being spent every month. So like I said, it's a projection. It's the best we can do at this point in time. This is a list of our expenses, just with each cost center. Obviously, you can see majority of it's in our winter maintenance costs and whatnot. But not a whole lot to go through here. Here's our revenue currently. I guess any questions on the whole financial piece? Yeah, the CIP. Yeah. I'm gonna let you control that.
Where's that list? I can't remember. Oh, sorry.
Yeah, I provided a list of the CIP requests. It was a late handout. This was discussed in February at our meeting. I did present yeah, I looked back at our agenda and it was in February that we addressed this. This was the same list that was presented at that time, as well as our last full county board CIP request. I know there's been some kind of discussions regarding the Rock Falls shop. I did have a number of county board members kind of asking, do we need it? Is there something we can do differently? I guess I would really like to explore for sure trying to put an addition on to this highway shop, so we can get the capacity needed for housing our equipment, be able to work safely in our shop. Right now, like I said, it's jam-packed wall to wall with the few trucks and the piece of equipment that we have in our shop, and the rest of it outside. So like I said, I wanted to present this to you again, and see what your thoughts are. If we try to continue going with the Rock Falls addition or building, or do we look at scrapping that and maybe just emphasize maybe utilizing those two trucks out of Menominee here? It can be done. It's one of those things where it's been on our CIP request for the last 15 years. Just due to budget, it's been dissolved every year.
Personally me, because I did see it in February, and I know also very utilized and spend the kind of money that we're talking about spending down there. I would rather see it spent here than down there. And so
I guess I want to know where, and this shouldn't have anything to do with it, but where do the guys live that work out of there? Are they closer? Are they?
So they're basically, one lives just south of C down by Dillon's.
Okay.
And then the other one is just south of town here.
Oh, that isn't so bad.
okay. I mean, what other counties have all these satellites anyway? I mean, like, Polk County doesn't. I mean, they have a sand.
Yeah,
they have a sand loading pit like in their lake, but they don't have shops in all these little districts, and I don't think Barron County does. I think we're both the only ones that probably does that.
Chipwood's got it.
Chipwood maybe. Yeah, Chipwood does have it.
Yeah, and there's a discussion we could also have with the DOT in the winter months. Maybe Pepin County or Eau Claire County would plow 85. That's something we could. It is our smallest route. in the entire county for the state route.
Right.
That has been discussed, like maybe they would maintain 85, maybe we would just take 25 down to 10 type of thing, to kind of offset that. There is a discussion and possibility that we could do something like that. Like I said, I'd like to bring it back to you, as a group to see what your thoughts are and see if we can reduce some of the CIP costs and maybe just, look at, obviously it's a big dollar amount if we would put an addition on here.
What else do you do out of that shop? Besides house 2 trucks?
That's it. We house 2 trucks and we use it predominantly in the winter months.
How many town or county roads you have south of the Chippewa? You got H that goes south.
So at, the county truck plows everything south of the Chippewa River. So they have H and O. And then they also do County Road H north of the Chippewa River and then a portion of County Road C to the county line and to J, I believe it is. So that's that route. So like I said before, it could be something we just have those 2 trucks come out of Menominee. We could explore the option of Pepin or Eau Claire County plowing 85 and we would just have to deal with the county. That would have to be addressed, like, okay, if we get called out or if there's an accident or something out on 85, who responds, right? That'd be something we'd have to look at. That would be, I think, our biggest complication there.
I would just kind of hate to keep on farming out all of our business. It seems like we're doing like crushing of the like limestone that and also, you know, county or state highway 85. That's when we farmed out.
Yeah, and
Let's give it.
and like I said, at a minimum, we could scrap the Rockfall shop and have those 2 trucks housed out of here. And we wouldn't change any level of service or anything. Yeah. And I live on County Road, or I take County Road East, so if we have 3 trucks going down there.
That's even better.
Yeah.
Just like, I have a hard time spending that kind of. Just doesn't seem.
Lean that way myself.
And mind you, these are
Not
numbers.
what we need.
These are numbers today. If this happens 2 years from now, it could be $1 million. It could be 1.2 million for that shop. I don't know. Right now, I think I had estimated 800 or somewhere around there.
But it'll be $1 million.
Oh, yeah, correct. Yep, we have heating costs, we have all that. And we still have a salt shed down there, we still have a loader, we still have that on a
You still
different
have
piece
that
of
there, so
property.
you can refill one down there. Yeah, that's not the issue.
And like I said, that's something we can talk to the town of Rock Creek, maybe utilizing their shop or something like that too. I have no idea. At least the bathroom facilities. maybe.
Yeah. They're not against it.
So,
I have a shifting gears a little bit, question on this building. Potential addition. Is there a, like a mandate that, so like it's still, you know, that when they build something, they have to try to match the current building. So I guess what I'm asking is, this would be considered a concrete building, correct? Or brick and mortar or whatever you want to call it. Okay, so what are the parameters that we made if we went like a more of a tin-sided shed style? Does that cut costs, still service what we need done? Maybe it's more of a cold storage for a year or two to, you know,
so
keep building the funds in to.
these estimated costs were for a steel building
Oh, steel.
with a portion of it being precast or block. Cause we were looking at putting an automatic wash bay.
Yeah.
Obviously you wouldn't be able to get steel on that,
Yeah.
but majority of it would be steel, insulated where we could actually have whatever, if we put 45 degrees in there, just to have it heated so you can get the stuff to melt off. And, but yeah, that'd be something, that's what the intent was when I got that estimated cost. not necessarily just adding a precast onto this
Right.
precast building.
Right. Yeah.
So it might be a whole separate building.
Yeah.
And I know I expressed the 30,000 square foot facility. What I would like to obviously start is the process to come up with analysis on what size facility we need, what do we need, what would suit us. I think that's the first step we need to have done. And at the end of the day, if they come up with $10 million and we say, okay, it's not gonna happen. So at least start the process to do an analysis on
I agree.
That's the biggest thing. Right here, you're looking at it.
So what are you trying to?
I don't know how we do that, if it's an action item or not. We just kind of just get your feeling on it, and then Chris and I and Beata can kind of go down that road.
Then I think it would be. Did you do it scheduled for act, or no, we held it. Yeah, so I think you could, for, endorsement from this committee.
Whatever they want. Okay, that's kind of what I was wondering.
I think that was.
You're talking about the rock.
Just the rock creek. Oh, taking that off for now. I just don't.
We need a motion.
Can't have one. Can't have one. Just discussion.
You just kind of want to know how we feel.
How you feel?
I kind of. Or,
You know how I feel. So
yeah.
I just want to know how everybody. Or I would bring that
Please stick my kind of money over there.
yeah.
You can't or you can? Oh, yeah, okay, okay.
I have no problem putting the money out here.
Yeah, I just would rather be
too.
here.
Me too.
No, because I think, like Menominee is kind of in the center of Dunn County, so
Right.
it's not like you're way down in the corner, you're already in the center.
Right.
So it won't,
Leave it here.
if
Yeah,
time comes, well, yeah, it makes more sense here.
Yeah, I mean, the only concern, obviously, if the H bridge is not there, we have no way of getting down there, otherwise we have to go through Durand and all that, but.
Yeah, yeah.
I don't ever foresee that going away.
Hard
Anytime
to get
soon.
anybody to that shop.
Yeah, regardless.
Exactly. I mean,
Yeah.
that's gonna be-
If that's a issue, we probably got to figure
Yeah.
it. We can
We'll
go
have
around-
we'll have to bring that ferry back.
we can go around Grand once or
Okay,
twice.
that's kind of what I'm.
Okay, well, we'll just have that, obviously, Chris and I and Beata will have that recommendation, conversation, so.
All right.
That's it for my staff report, long-winded, sorry.
Considerations for actions to take, approval of vouchers.
The one thing I wanted to notice, it took me a year and a half basically to figure this out, but we always provided you the vouchers, but not everything was included in these vouchers that I was not aware of. So our big ticket purchases, like any fuel, anything like that, was not included in these vouchers. It's a work in progress to try to get all that put in there. But our finance staff did separate that. So anything that's considered a PO, a purchase order, larger than basically $5,000 was not shown in here, these vouchers. So I just happened to notice it last meeting and I was like, well, what's going on? So I just wanted you to be aware that it does look a little different. I did have an additional, which is called 7A in your packet. It's your normal vouchers anything under $5,000. And then we do have the March POs, which as you can see, majority of the POs are fuel. Energy Solution Partners, that's fuel. Landmark Services is fuel, and Synergy Cooperative is fuel. That makes up a
Now-
huge cost for.
For the fuel, is that gone through a state that, there's a bidding, or you go straight
So we
around here?
bid it locally. Every load of fuel that we need, we bid it out. Typically, we have
two or three entities that bid on it. And it's amazing, like, how that fuel cost changes from minute to minute. I mean, we want it delivered here at 7 o'clock in the morning on this day, they will give us the price of that at 7 o'clock in the morning. It's goofy.
I remember being on a synergy board, that the operatives don't make that much money on large jobs. It's so much competition, you know, maybe do it on the volume.
Yeah, and like what Dan said is what we see is about 50 to 60 cents cheaper than at the pump. That's what we're ordering, getting orders for. We still pay state tax on it. And freight charges or any delivery charges. We do have to pay state tax. The only state tax we get reimbursed back is if it's considered off-road diesel. So any of our dozers, backhoes, we separate that, we've actually get reimbursed for that from the state. So yes, we do have to pay state taxes just like everybody else. Doesn't make sense, but it is what it is. But any questions regarding any of these? I know the state of Wisconsin corrections kind of gets always brought up, but the Stanley prison makes signs, DOT signs. So that is the cost. You see that 13,000 for the POs. They had our contract this year to make signs for us.
So
Get
on
some cheap labor.
an average month, how many employees have to have a drug test?
It's random, so it's a random solution
What do you
number.
think of all those, you know, websites?
Yeah, it typically it's whatever, six employees, 10 employees every month.
They just put on to the hospital here to get that, or?
No, we go to Drug Test Midwest, which is, I don't know where it's moved now. They were down by right across from Stout on Broadway, and then I don't know where they moved now. Or maybe it's by that vacuum place in that little triangle, whatever you want to call that building. I think that's where it is.
Will be approved though. The main second.
Who wants to be the second?
Any other discussion? If not, all in favor, aye?
Aye.
Motion. Take care of crushing equipment.
In your packet, labeled 7B, obviously, we're all aware that, the last piece of equipment was picked up, yesterday, I believe, for all the crushing equipment. So we had a potential revenue amount here of $918,504 for all the crushing equipment. Obviously, that was an addition above and beyond our budget. This was not allocated as a revenue for 2023. What we're looking at is where the highway committee wants to see it go. Where do the funds go? I guess my recommendation is to put it in our fund balance for equipment purchases, and equipment purchases only, like not towards operational costs or anything like that. It would be towards equipment purchase. That's my recommendation. So that's what I wanted to have your support and approval, I guess. And otherwise, you can say no.
Sales should go back to the equipment.
I make a motion that we, put the revenue gained from our selling our crushing equipment into,
Fund balance account.
use for equipment only.
Second. And made and seconded, we put, crushing equipment into the equipment fund balance. Any other discussion? All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Motion passes. What?
Waiting for you.
What'd I do? I said motion passes.
Now you gotta go on to the next.
Oh, okay. You're just gonna take over, right? You know?
Unbelievable. First time for Randy.
Oh, for day of job. Okay, pavement marking proposal.
So in your packet, 7C, we requested bid proposals for pavement markings for the 2023 season. This is just on the county roadways. We received 3 proposals from Century Fence, Farner Asphalt, and Sir Lines a Lot. Yes, that is a name, Sir Lines a Lot. Based on the results, my recommendation is to go with Farner Asphalt for the pavement marking proposals for 2023. Based on the waterborne paint is what 99% of our application is in Dunn County. So that's my recommendation, is to go with Farner Asphalt.
The question I would have is, no passing with locates. That gets kind of, is that just for the paint, or is that like, the location where you should put those double lines and single lines?
So-
Which is,
Yeah, so the only locates that we outsource is if it's a brand new roadway. So like our County Road V and Z and potentially B would only be those located. If it's a remark, any other road, we
you
don't.
just go with the old remarks.
Yeah, so if any no passing zones have changed or anything like that, that's, I'd like a third party to do that, so.
I'm just looking at it, it looks like you're gonna charge us $300 a mile, just, say, yeah, it's gotta be a single line or double line, or,
Yeah, at the end of the day, it'd be about approximately 10 miles with our proposed road construction project.
Move to go with Farner Asphalt.
I'll second that.
Motion made and seconded. Any discussion? If not, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion passes. D, County Road V and County Road Z base material.
So in your packet, 7D labeled, it should just go in order. For County Road V project, we submitted proposals. We received three proposals for the base materials for that project, which is 1.25 inch materials. That would be base added to the existing roadway, pulverized in, and pave on top of it. Based on the results, my recommendation is to go with Stelter Incorporated, which is a company over by the Bloomer area, which Stelter Haas are from that area, same exact road on 124. And then Milestone is the other direction over by Connersville area, actually in St. Croix County. So like I said, based on the cost, my recommendation is go with Stelter. We would be looking at either them hauling it or we would haul it ourselves. Towards us hauling it ourselves, we have the time and the equipment to do it. So that would be my recommendation for County Road V. So I guess we'll make a motion on that first before we jump into the Z one. Motion.
Motion made and seconded to go with Stelter Incorporated for the County Road V base course. Any discussion? All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
County Road Z base materials, that's from County Road C to 90th Avenue. We received 2 proposals for that project from Milestone and Haas Sons. It's kind of a little bit complicated, but Haas has a recycled product over somewhere by Baldwin area for Wilson Quarry. I don't know where that is, but it's a lot further away than what Milestone Quarry is, which is in Elmwood. So based on these proposals, my recommendation is to go with Milestone Materials at that $7.95 per ton, and we would be picking that up with our own equipment, hauling it to the job site.
Seemed like last year Haas was lower than everyone else. This year they're higher.
Oh. Whatever.
Must be busier this year.
Either
I
that
don't
or they
know.
figured out they weren't making any money on it. I don't know.
And that delivery price, as you see from Haas, that is actually them to haul it from Milestone to our job site. We won't even be using their materials, it'd be using Milestone material.
Okay.
So that's why it gets a little complicated, so
Sure.
it's like, man,
So I'll make that motion.
For the county road Z, thanks, Bart. Any discussion? If not, all in favor?
All right.
Okay. Passes. County Road D and County Road G.
So we submitted, engineering design proposals for County Road D and G, which is up by Jake's and Pioneer. So a portion of County Road D from, 25 to 816th Avenue, which is just north of the Tainer Town Hall. It's the first town road. As well as County Road G from Double B to the Jake's Bridge is what we call it, the Red Cedar River Bridge, where the corn cribs and are that we all are familiar with. So we submitted proposals. We had 6 firms actually respond to our proposal. If we look at a cost-based proposal, it gets kind of complicated. The biggest hurdle that a lot of these design firms have a difficult process to give a price based on the real estate, like the flat. If we go through here and we need to buy real estate or whatever from landowners, they're kind of guessing on how many parcels, which there is a cost to that. So I really didn't take a whole lot of cost or rating into that. But on the second page, as you can see, Isaac and myself, we put a ranking sheet together based on what our cost proposals were submitted at. We requested a firm profile, a qualifications, experience, technical approach, and cost. Cost only accounts for approximately 30% of the overall decision. We don't want to go 100% on cost because it's gonna, like I said, it's maybe not the best interest of Dunn County to look at that. So out of the 6 firms that submitted, if you look at, we want to look at cost, the 2 cheapest costs, based on their cost proposal, were Cedar Core and Core Engineering. So we gave them the highest ranking when it came to the cost. Obviously, we went on a scale of 0 to 100. In increments of 5. We don't want to get too complicated with the whole ranking system, but if we put everything together and average it out, if you look on the bottom there, the overall combined ranking, the number 1 was Core Engineering, had the highest ranking, and Cedar Core was number 2. If we look at Core's overall cost, it's approximately right around that $150,000 to do this design. In 2023, I had allocated $250,000 to this, as well as the B project design costs. So we do have the money there. And if you look at a lot of these, like Cedar Core, theirs gets kind of complicated. They have an additional cost above and beyond what they proposed for each parcel that we would have to purchase fee title, which is permanent real estate, or TLEs, which is a temporarily limited easement. Core had that cost already included in there for 50 parcels. So if we look at adding the 800 and the 500, I'm looking at an additional probably another 20 grand added on to Cedar Core's cost proposal, bringing it to right around that 150,000. I think it's like 145. I think we had 145,000.
Cheap, yeah, that makes sense.
But that's my concern, is there's some additional costs added into that potentially. So yeah, if we look at the engineering design cost at 89,000 versus 137, there's a lot of things that are not included in that 89,000 that
So where
Core
is that
did.
Or located? I never heard of
They're out of
that
Eau
before.
Claire. So we worked with Core quite a bit in the past. They designed a portion of our County Road E project south of 1229. They designed the County Road H project north of Double H this last year. That was reconstructed. They've
Any
done
good luck with them?
I have no complaints. Core does a lot of our real estate acquisitions. They have staff in-house to do that. Versus Cedar Core and a lot of these other firms don't have that capability. Once we get down that path, that will be an additional cost on top of this if we determine what we need for real estate. But like I said, we tried to compare apples to apples and as best we could. But based on our rankings and our recommendations, I would like to pursue working with Core Engineering.
I'll make that motion for that, D and E project.
Motion made, seconded. Go with Core Engineering for the County Road D and G engineering design and construction. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passed.
Wisconsin DOT crack routing and sealing CEM agreement.
So I provided in your packet 7F, that's in a maintenance agreement above and beyond our contract with the state through our RMA agreement that we complete every year. So this would be an additional budget adjustment we would have to do. But this has not been awarded. This was a cost that we presented to the state on what it would take to do this project for the DOT. So Isaac put a list of costs together for crack filling Highway 25 from 170 to 64, as well as the South County line to the Red Cedar River by Downsville, along with State Highway 170 from 25 to D. We came up with an estimated cost of $82,000 to complete all the crack filling work on those three sections of state roadways. We would be, if you feel comfortable with that number, we would present this to the state. They would approve it, and we would have a contract in place. And then we would be coming up with a budget adjustment in our county highway budget. So this would be above and beyond any routine maintenance agreement we have with the DOT.
So this number, is that a break even, 5% gain for equipment?
Do you want me to be honest?
Oh,
We did put in a factor of additional costs, what we would be additional revenue versus the actual cost. The DOT knows this, they're treating us as a contractor. So there's no counties that are gonna go into this. So we do put a little bit of a factor into it.
So the crack on is this very fast buggies or is this actually?
This is the rubber material. This was talking about where you put the paper on it. Yeah, just filling the cracks with a rubber seal.
The traction area for
Yes.
the.
Yeah, and obviously we don't have the two crack grinders that have the dust collection system on it.
Oh,
So we will be renting Chippewa County's machines, just because we can't get a machine here quick enough. Right now, we'd be looking at completing this probably May 1st, when the state's thinking the contract would, which will have to go down to Madison. The upper authority down there.
That was
had
my
to
question,
approve.
how are you gonna do that? If you don't have any
Exactly. And the rental from Chippewa
It's
is
already in the,
already included in this.
their motion on there? Or you need a motion, right?
Yeah.
Motion. Motion made. Seconded. Submit this to the Wisconsin Department of Transportation. Any discussion? If not, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. G, Wisconsin dot bridge sealant EMA agreement.
So the state loves acronyms, so DMA is a discretionary maintenance agreement, so this is above and beyond, similar to the PBM, above and beyond our normal RMA that's for Dunn County. So the state's looking at, washing and sealing, bridge decks. So we have a list of bridges they want us to do. I believe there's 25 of them. Maybe not that many. I don't recall. There's a list that they want us to do. I don't have that in here. But they came up with an estimated cost of that $39,000, which we ran some numbers and it looks good. This is basically a set amount of dollars that's above and beyond our RMA. If that goes over, it would come out of the RMA budget. The Dunn County would not be on the hook for any overages. So we would be basically paid for our time and materials. But this is just an additional cost allocated above and beyond our RMA. It's pretty straightforward. Like I said, $39,000. Budget adjustment, obviously, once this is approved.
So all these projects now, we have enough time and equipment and help to do it, not, that's something else separate.
Yes, hopefully, traditionally, what we have utilized in the past is, we've hired summer help. Unfortunately, I'm not going to be able to hire summer help this particular year. There was a error, in our budget, for funding it, unfortunately, so, I'm not going to be hiring. I had enough money allocated for one summer help. It doesn't pay to hire one. So
You can't come back with a budget adjustment? Or isn't it really worth
I
it?
guess I don't want to do that this year. I think we at the point we're at right now, I think we have the staff to do it. If we did hire summer help at a lesser wage, we cost, obviously we could get some college students in here, maybe whatever, half a dozen of them, save us some money, where we could utilize our staff elsewhere, but it would be above and beyond our budget. So, we do have the staff that is capable of doing it. We have a machine that we actually made, probably about 5 years ago now. It's just, put the bridge sealer in a tote and it's a trailer, it sprays it, you just drive it on with the truck instead of spraying it on by hand. Goes a lot quicker. We can get multiple bridges done in one day. Goes pretty slick, so. With this, we can do it all year round as long as it's not 40 degrees out. Typically you want 70 degrees and for the stuff to dry, so.
Made and seconded, to accept the bridge sealant agreement. Any discussion? If not, all in favor?
Aye.
On to item.
Yeah, so 7H in your packet, I put a list together. This is not, it's not set in stone, I guess, but I just wanted to provide a list of the equipment that I've asked our staff to look into, to dispose of, auction off, just because of its non-utilization. Maybe it was utilized years ago, but a lot of it is kind of just sits in our shed or sits outside. We don't feel that we need it anymore. So the list provided, obviously, the chip spreader, we have that 1993 unit. We are currently, in the last 5 years, we've utilized St. Croix's chip spreader. They have a lot newer, up-to-date model. Works out great for us. This machine literally is utilized 2 weeks out of the year. I have a hard time justifying owning a piece of equipment if it's only used 2 weeks out of the year. So I would like to sell that piece of equipment. Obviously, we probably won't get a whole lot of money for it, unfortunately, because it's such a select piece of equipment. But you never know. Got to do something with it unless it's a paperweight right now. We'd be looking at selling off one of our air compressors. We have 3 air compressors. Usually one of them sits vacant all year round. Sits in our shed, so I'm looking at getting rid of one of those. We haven't determined which one we would be looking at getting rid of. They're both old, 1986 and 1982. We may have to look at eventually replacing the one unit we don't sell here. Looking at replacing 2 or getting rid of 2 John Deere tractors. They're older tractors. They were utilized. We do have one of them that just gets utilized out here on the median out on 29. We have other options with that, even if I have to call facilities up and have them bring a mower over just to mow the median. We'll do something like that instead of having a piece of equipment sitting here when we need it. So those 2 units there, we're looking at getting on the auction site, as well as the 2 pickup trucks. Obviously, the 2 pickups, the Ford F-150, a 1999 model, and a 2008 model, which has a lot of rust and a lot of issues on with these 2 particular units. Obviously, we don't have any backups. We'd be disposing of these 2 pickups, but don't have any 2 new pickups coming in. We can't get trucks right now. 2024 models aren't even ordered right now. And everything's up in the air with pickup trucks right now. So I think now's the time to do it before we keep sticking in more money. So, and then obviously we have a plow truck, 153 single axle truck, a 1998 model that has sat in our backyard the whole last year. It has some mechanical issues with it. We just feel there's not enough justification to stick money into it. So down the road it needs to go. Used guardrail posts, some sweeper brooms, some used sweeper brooms, so cattle can scratch the backs on it. And we have a used Freightliner cab. For some reason we purchased a truck for parts, I guess, because we couldn't get parts during COVID, and now we have a cab sitting here. So we're looking at getting rid of that as well. And then some miscellaneous parts and equipment. We've been going through the parts department here. We have some parts that are for some older Mack trucks that we don't have anymore. So let's put it on the auction site and see what we get. If we get $1 for it, that's more than what we got sitting here doing nothing, fortunately. So
I'll make a motion, we move forward with it. Go ahead.
We're gonna get rid of those grinders?
we didn't put that on the auction site. It'd be something maybe we would trade in,
Oh, okay.
looking at something like
I know
that.
you said something more. Okay.
Yeah.
No, you're good.
I got one question, you got the, like, used guardrail post, about the guardrails themselves, what, do you use them all the time, or is there?
A lot of the rail, we actually try to utilize again. So a lot of the stuff that comes off the state might only be 3 years old. What they do is, I'm not gonna speak on behalf of how they figure out what
Because
they
the
replace
state
and what they do,
almost puts
but
federal,
yeah.
One over there and got those like cattle.
Yep.
Like fencing and that, and some of those, can't tell if they're used.
And that's not to say we might actually have some rail on there, but I don't, as of right now, we try to utilize that as for our own use. But we just have an abundance of posts.
Make a motion that we move forward with putting the listed items and then other miscellaneous parts and equipment as deemed sellable or whatever onto the auction site.
Motion made and seconded. To, put on the actual site list here, any discussion? If not, all in favor?
All right.
All right,
Any opposed? Motion passes. That's it for those. Number 8. Last, but really not least.
What we've all been waiting for and what Nick's been here for.
Nick, sir? All right.
bye, Nick.
I'm here. I've been editing contracts, so.
All right.
There we
Number
go.
8. Where do we start with this?
Do you want me to talk?
Well, I guess if you could, obviously you prepared this, ordinance, change.
Yes.
It's obviously a draft.
Yeah, the impetus for preparing this was to see what it would look like for all of the county highways except for County Highway B from 1229 to Highway 40 over by Colfax, if they were approved as trails. And so I guess my theory, I was also asked to include a requirement for turn signals. And I think this either came from Dustin or from the sheriff's department. They've been expressing a greater interest in the ATV ordinance as well, to the point of actually suggesting that I get the whole the trail designations out of there so it doesn't get in their way, which of course we can't do. But anyways, somebody also suggested that the towns, a gathering of towns, town chairs or town representatives had occurred, and it was felt that if there are trail designations, whether it's all of the county highways except for the Highway B exception, or as it's currently written, the hours of operation should be from dusk to dawn. And dusk and dawn are kind of loose and very subjective standards for enforcement if it's necessary. And so I included in there 60 minutes before sunrise to 60 minutes after sunset, because those are mathematically precise time periods. I guess if the judge wants to say, well, I don't think sunset was at 8:43 p.m. On that day. I think it was 8:42 or 8:45. So I'm going to let you off from your ticket. That's fine. But so those are the things that kind of came to me. And then as I got to work on this, it occurred to me that if the highway committee considers opening up nearly all of the county highways and designating them as ATV trails, that it would be prudent to have a little bit more, I guess, risk management and public safety and considerations be met by the ordinance. So I've added in this draft, I added some things such as speeding penalties. There were some enhanced enforcement aspects to it. Some of this stuff came from requests that I've received over the past year or so from the sheriff's department. So the rules of the road there's a long list of rules of the road, which is basically governs vehicle traffic on the highways, includes speeding, all these different things. While there are some of them that are specifically called out as being applicable to the operation of ATVs and UTVs. So those I've incorporated into the ordinance in order to, you know, again, in the interest of public safety and, you know, safe and lawful operation, increased traffic. And then I also included a provision in there that allows the prosecution of enforcement to include a request for an injunctive order from the court. So in other words, if you have somebody who is repeatedly causing problems on the highways, you could get a court order that says, okay, you're not allowed to operate on the highways anymore. You're constantly going, you know, 35 miles an hour over the speed limit, or you've caused 2 accidents or whatever. Not that it's likely to happen, but this is the kind of stuff that, you know, if the committee were to move forward with opening up county highways, it would seem, to me at least, prudent to be able to have that available if it became necessary, even if it's unlikely. It also, so I've added in some insurance requirements to the language. So if you're going to operate as if you were a motor vehicle, you know, a car or a truck, then you got to have insurance just like you would if you had a car or a truck. If people cause an accident, their financial responsibility for the liability that they've created, if they're at fault, should be well met by the ability to compensate whoever, you know, suffers an injury, property damage or personal injury as a result of it. So essentially, that's what I have in there. There is I don't know if you could see it or not, in on one of the pages. I was tinkering with the language about operators assuming risks. So it's highlighted in green. I'll have that shape for you if you decide to do something with this. And then at the very end of the ordinance, I've created an alternative. So what I have is the first 5 pages are kind of a revamped ordinance, including all of the things that we already have in there, plus some additional things that includes the stuff I've just been discussing, and a little bit more enhanced capability for law enforcement to enforce the rules. And then I moved the routes, the ATV routes, from to the very end. So then the last page would be a substitute for the listing of ATV routes, if you were to consider and move forward with opening up all of the county highways except for the exception on B. So it would just substitute. We'd have 2 sections in there, one designating the county highways and containing the rule about it being illegal to operate on county highways, and then subsection 11 would be those designated parts of those parts of the county highway system where operation is not permitted.
Right now, Nick, on the ones that are approved, they do not need turning signals, right?
Yeah, our ordinance currently does not require them. They're not required by state law. I believe that to be correct. Not a lot of counties I think very few counties, if any, require turn signals. The research that I've done shows that most of well, Jefferson County, which is Oconomowoc and west and north and south, is a fairly populous county, and it's adjacent to Waukesha County. They've opened up all of their trails, and I don't think they even have turn signal requirements. But this is, so I asked Travis Meyer, who's our new captain in the sheriff's office, to review this, and he thought it was good and remarked that we're probably the only or one of a very small handful of counties that would require it. So it's not common, but it, being on, having 94 going through, and as one of the commentators noted earlier, ATVs and UTVs are being operated on county highways and town roads, even if they're not designated as that. They're moving in. It just seems like a good idea to have turn signals if you're going to be operating. This is not a small sandbox anymore. It's competition for space and movement with vehicles that are much bigger and heavier, and we already got problems with those being the only ones on the highway. There's plenty of accidents, and so I did include it, but I don't think it's a common.
Okay, thanks.
One thing I was gonna ask you, Nick, is the penalty dollar amounts, is that statutorily set for speeding? Or is that
A
something?
lot of them there are. What I did is I included the ones that are sort of county based.
Okay,
And I guess I tried to strike a balance between the idea that this is, at least theoretically, is supposed to be a recreational activity. There is some utility to it, but for example, farming or hunting or snow plowing are activities where you're able to operate on the county highways. But for things that are like purely county ordinance based, I put some in there. There are penalties in the state law. And what I've done is incorporated them and classified them as forfeitures under the ordinance, so that any law enforcement officer could issue a citation of a violation of county ordinance or state law for most of the things. And then it gives the district attorney the ability to enter into a plea agreement to convert it to a county ordinance violation and paying a forfeiture to the county rather than a fine to the state.
Discussion.
Yeah, Nick, 4K operation of ATVs. 12 years old seems awful young to be on a county road.
They're not allowed on.
They're not.
Am I missing this?
There's no person under 12.
I understand that, but 12 to 16 is
Oh, yeah, right,
young.
okay, yeah.
That's what I meant. The age of
Yeah.
12. That's
Well,
young.
what this says is no one under 12 shall operate under any circumstances.
I understand that.
I think I
Well,
might
but
have,
a 12 to 16 can.
13 or 14.
I might have missed bringing something in from the existing ordinance, because my understanding is that, well, I think oh yeah, under 18, either have to have a driver's license or they must be accompanied by a parent. So a 13-year-old could operate an ATV if they were accompanied by their parent. And I think this is the language that's in our current ordinance. Let me pull it up and see if I can. I agree with you. You know, this is when the ATV, UTV statutes came into effect. They were primarily these four-wheel things that you sat straddling like a motorcycle or a snowmobile, and they had a Honda 250 and engine in them. And now you can buy them, they cost more than a Cadillac, and they've got turbochargers and, you know, really high quality Kevlar tires on them. And I mean, the capabilities, the power and speed and capabilities, mechanical capabilities of these things has evolved way faster than the laws regulating them. And the original intent was to permit counties to open segments of their highways so that people who are recreating on these in these machines or vehicles could, you know, they'd pop out on a county highway at the end of a trail, and then they could go down the road a mile or whatever and get back onto another trail and continue on, sort of like snowmobiles, except, you know, probably a little more reliant on the road, on, you know, on the paved portion of the highway. That was the original intent of all this.
On a bridge or whatever.
If you don't have a valid driver's license, you have to be accompanied by a parent.
Or have that sticker, right, or that training,
Yeah, you have to have training.
if you don't have a license.
So the committee must pass this on to the county board for approval if we approve it, correct? If not, it's.
Yeah, you could take any action that you want. For example, if you want to leave the ordinance exactly the way it is, you wouldn't have to do anything. If there are, and I'm sorry I didn't do a better job of calling that stuff out in the document, but if there are changes that you want to make, you know, you could tell me that you want those in, and we could move those forward. If you want to leave the routes the same, you can do that. If you want to open up all of the county highways except for that section of B, you could do that. If you have other sections that you'd like to restrict, we can add those to the list. Or if you'd like to consider it and discuss it at this meeting and come back for another meeting, you could do that too. I mean, this wouldn't come to the executive committee until next month. If you wanted to move it forward for the county board, it would be next month's May executive committee meeting where it would be reported in May County Board. And that 12 or under currently is part of our ordinance. So it says no person under 12 years of age shall operate an ATV or UTV under any circumstances.
So these are like routes that were presented to us, they're already in the old one, they're already approved
These are.
Yes,
right now.
yes.
So the people that came this morning, they were talking about Highway S, that's not even listed in here.
Nope, that's not
And
good.
even Highway W, it is very short, you know, from the Grant Town Hall going to Oxford, that's all it's open,
Yeah,
you know, so.
They're riding now, they're riding now.
I know they are.
They're not gonna stop there.
So,
They're all the
question,
farmers.
if we waited till May 10th,
For the next meeting.
is that, and then took action on it, can it still be brought to the county board
Not till the
sort of
June meeting.
supervised and not till the June meeting?
Maybe May.
It should be.
Cause the exact is the same day.
You have. I don't know, Nick.
I guess the reason,
If I understand, you're asking if you would want to bring this back again in May, could it still go to the executive committee?
and
I mean, I think it's possible. What if you want to have some discussion today and talk about things that you'd either like or not like in it. And then, I could have a pretty robust, pretty accurate draft of what it is that you want to bring forward in time to get it to the executive committee, and pending your approval, of course, at the meeting earlier that day. And it could come to the county board. I mean, ideally, it's a little better to have that 1 week or so of advance time. But given that it's just a report, it would be, so like this ordinance would be simply part of the committee chair's report to the executive committee on things that are coming forward. So it wouldn't require approval or anything by the executive committee. It would just be a report. And so I mean, I think we could get it into the packet in advance if you decided that you wanted to, go forward with something. And the more detail I would have today, the more detail, more accurate, whatever I draft for you would be next month.
Well, personally, I have problems with certain sections of some of the other county roads, and it, not necessarily S and W like the folks are talking about today, but like north on M, that's very busy to the
Lot of
22.
traffic.
Yeah, and it's, you heard Darren come in today saying he had to wait for a piece of equipment. Now we're gonna throw these out there on him, and I don't know, I have my concerns with it, to be honest with you.
I'd like to have more time.
that's,
Well, and we know the routes that are already in place.
But you're talking about like M, you said that.
Right, Gary, right,
That
I
was approved.
understand. No, it's not approved.
On
That's south.
Yeah, M is from State Highway 40 to the town of Elk Mounds, 910th Street.
Actually, I'm gonna throw out a motion, guys. I'm gonna throw out a motion that we keep our routes the same for,
Yep, I'm not in favor of going to the, all county roads at all.
if that makes any sense to you, Nick, does that? I move that we keep our routes the same as they are right now until they request more in October. Isn't that when they usually come in, Dustin?
And then I also think that some of his additions, the wording is probably okay.
Yeah.
Would you like are you talking about keeping, so having everything up to through page 5, have that be what you want to bring forward? And then
I would like to keep everything the same, Nick, until October, and then we can have time to look at this stuff, and we could add it in next fall if there are any other requests.
Okay, that's fine. I think, the sheriff's department is certainly interested in having a little bit more enhanced ability. The state law helped us out a little bit. When we first adopted this ordinance, there weren't any prohibitions, I think, for operating under the influence. They couldn't, if you're driving a car, they could pull you over and you could get in trouble for being drunk. But if you're in a side-by-side, there's not a thing they could do. Well, the state legislature finally fixed that. But so there are things that the sheriff's department is definitely interested in pursuing. But if you want to take it up again in October, I can work on something for you to just address those things.
Nick, I got one more thing, if I can throw it out there. Back when they came in and talked to us about opening it up more, I brought up the idea of, you know, we have a wheel tax on our vehicles and stuff like that. So I brought up, well, if they're gonna drive on roads, maybe there should be a wheel tax, you know? So I don't know if that's something that, you know, can be explored and see what that kind of that impact would be, you know, as far as how much that should be and get an estimated number of ATV usage or UTV usage and, you know, again, I'm not trying to cost them more money or create more taxing or whatever, but at the same time, it's, you know, they are using the roads or whatever.
I can look into that. There's a little snag in the state law, so it says that counties and municipalities can adopt ordinances, and I think the wording is in conformity with this section or strict conformity with this section. And so the more we get away from public peace and order, public safety, you know, the greater the possibility that it would be viewed as not, you know, not being consistent or not conforming to the statute that allows regulations. But on the other hand, I don't know for sure today. So I can definitely look into that and have something, you know, have that available for your consideration, you know, later in the year.
And I suppose, Nick, I probably shouldn't have, we actually don't need a motion to keep it the same, correct?
That's true. I mean, if you don't want to take any action, the ordinance that we have provides all the regulation that, you know, we already have an ordinance and it's there. So like I said, there are a couple of things the sheriff's department would appreciate having, but I think those could probably wait till October if that's when you want to review it.
That's my thoughts.
Any other discussion here?
No.
They got a lot of routes right now that have been.
I'm not going for war, I think.
I thought it started out to be just, you know, connecting routes between townships. They can use the county road, just hit one point, the other point of the trail. I think that's how it started out, but then once you get your foot in the door, well, it's not quite open far enough.
It's just that every other county's approved all these separate routers, and we're in the island, so that's the only difference. Everybody south, everybody north. Oh, haven't had it? I thought they did. Oh, okay. But a lot of counties have.
I don't know if Barron's wide open.
We're pretty close. Just like we would.
No,
And that's where I'm at. I think it's gonna happen someday, sooner rather than later.
Well, they're using them now, so I don't know, making an ordinance, but I guess using them as a good.
Yes,
Right.
I guess I'd like to look a bit closer. I looked at it some last night, or the day before or whatever, but. Yeah.
but I know that Highway M from Colfax down to Old Mountain Township line, that's approved. And I haven't seen a whole bunch of activity. I mean, occasionally a couple go down there, but it's not like they were saying there'd be, you know, 10, 15 at one time going down. I haven't seen
The
that.
whole town of Red Cedar's open, you know. You see them on the road.
Well, you say it, at the price what it costs to buy one.
Do we,
That's gotta be,
do we have to wait till October? What if they come back in July or whatever?
They'll probably be back next month. That's beside the point.
It's just my opinion. I mean,
No,
there's some that I want to, like, that's my thoughts. I'm sure people up in my area are gonna be upset with me, but you can get down W too, you know? I mean,
Well, they're going on their own.
you know, if we change it, but there's like, that one is a tough one. I just think it's too busy. I do.
No,
And there
I'm
might
not-
be other ones. And
I'm not bringing
No.
questions up.
no, I'm just, that's
Question
my
you
thoughts.
or whatever.
It's just to me that when they come back, they're gonna be upset because we aren't looking at it or we're not passing it, approving it today. There's other roads I'd like to look at. I
Yeah.
just don't, you know, B definitely, you know.
Well,
Yeah.
keep
And that's
everybody
kind of where
safe.
I'm at too. I'm not against opening more up or whatever at all, but I just wanna make sure we're not putting them or other people in harm's way
Yeah,
senselessly.
right.
You know, when there's other options for them to get from here to there.
I've got one, and I mean,
I got one too.
yeah.
But what you're gonna find out, Mark, is you're gonna make half the people mad no matter.
No,
like,
no,
what
I
grade.
know that. I coached my whole life.
You know, that-
So, we're off for a month or put it off, what do you wanna do? Anything, just let it go.
You're the boss.
Fucking smart now, aren't you?
Is it something we wanna table just for next month?
That's what I
and then-
mean, you wanna come back and discuss? Or
I mean,
have
is
a
there-
plan for
I guess
what-
that's right. That's gonna be my, I'm not ready to move now like I think most of us maybe feel, but
But a person can either put it on like the next, just automatically until we come to a conclusion. So if we don't get done next month, well, it'll be on
because
the
that
agenda.
might give us a chance, Brian, to look into, keeping that section closed or whatever, taking that. I guess, rather than just saying, everything's wide open, or we stay with what's already open, maybe there's a in-between that we can navigate that. I don't know. I don't
Probably
know
easier
the
for
answer.
the sheriff's department to have.
No, I know that
Then it's a certain segment,
Yeah,
that's
I-
the issue, I think, the sheriff.
I didn't even think about that.
I mean, it's hard to, okay, you can only be here, but you can't be here.
Yeah, no.
It's hard to control that too. I
It
would
is,
think.
absolutely.
I mean, if they go extra 1,000 feet on a road, that's not open, but that was.
No, I know it's hard for.
So I mean, I think it's hard,
Hard for the sheriff because,
they don't know,
they gotta know, like, what township am I in?
Right.
and that's a whole problem, the townships aren't even on board with this stuff. Some townships are wide open, some townships are totally restricted to everything, so.
I know the town of Grant had opened up a couple on the west side of the Cedar, but when they found out that they weren't gonna open up any county roads, like going down from the town hall down to, well, it would have been 64.
It
They
didn't
took them
matter.
off. They said, nope, we're not gonna open them until the county does, so.
Right.
But
Well, table it until next meeting. Okay,
That takes care of that one.
I think that was
So
it.
is it, am I correct then? You'd like to see, maybe a change, a changed, proposal for your next meeting?
Discuss other roads that you,
Okay,
that should be not open.
well, that one I'm gonna have to wait for you to make your list up so I can put it in there.
what about what the sheriff, department would like to see?
Oh, I can highlight that and include it. And, what I'll do, I guess, if you're gonna talk about additional route designations, what I can do is just extract all these items from this draft and, just make up a list of things that could be added to the ordinance. And then if then you could go, instead of looking at the document as a whole, you could just go through them item by item, maybe be a little better, a little easier process of discussing them.
What I can do is I'll put a map together with the actual routes that are currently,
That would be nice too.
I'll have Isaac do that. But he's way better at it than I.
And I've seen it before,
Bigger piece of paper.
yeah. With the traffic counts on them, I mean, you've had that before, and that is really helpful.
Because then you're being more consistent. You say, well, a certain road with so much traffic, maybe it's not a good idea.
I just will weigh in on that. It's a little concerning because we do have routes that are on some of our heavier traveled roads. Like County Road E and D down by Old Galley, yes. That's where it gets concerning.
Really.
So if we do a ADT volume, I almost have to throw that out.
Okay.
We do have routes on it now.
I was gonna say. Terryville Bridge, I must be.
Yeah.
Never been an incident.
I don't know of any incidences that I've heard of.
So when you plow those bridges, you try to get the snow off the bridge and right into the river? That's a long bridge. I mean, is that
I
possible?
don't know, I'm not in a plow truck. Whatever the guys do, I don't get a phone call about it, that's good, it's good.
Simple question.
I'm assuming so on that particular Garyville Bridge.
But they'd have to come back along the side to push it off. Then you'd be down to such a narrow.
Yeah, it's too narrow
lane.
now.
All right. So that's where we're at. Back in a week, a month, and we'll go from there.
I'll have it on the list. And the
Sounds
next,
good. Next meeting is May 10th. Anybody else, any questions? Nothing?
We have to do something.
It's almost bad for PRG.
All right, we're adjourned.
20 already?
Shut the tape off.
You never went this long, Brian.
Huh? I know, I keep things moving.
That's because